Hello everybody and welcome back to Chaotic Neutral Games. This is not going to be a role-playing session. Instead we're going to be having a little bit of a Q&A session. Main reason for that is that most of us are going on holiday, either now or tomorrow or the day after. So we're just going to chill out here and just talk about the characters, so you get to know a bit more about them, and the players will get to ask me a little bit more about the setting. And also, currently I can only see Rattles in there. Hello, dude. How's it going? But yeah, by all means, put your own questions in the chat, and I will probably miss them, but the other guys will probably poke me so that the so that the questions are answered, and we'll try to prioritize viewer questions because, well, they can hear me flap my gums all, and we can harass each other on the internet. So that's cool. So first of all, slight thing to mention: our graphics have changed. Once again, our wonderful Felicia has come through with some amazing backdrops.
And we all missed the typo in the top thing that that Rattles just pointed out.
Chaotic Noodle Games. God damn it.
I just noticed that.
I said it once. I said it again. I will say it every episode. We are a class outfit.
God.
Oh, we all missed it. Oh dear.
I can't believe I missed that.
Oh, brilliant. We've only been staring at it for God knows how long. Okay.
Yeah.
And this is...
It's not your fault, Felicia. Everybody missed it.
It really isn't, Felicia. I've been looking through these things going, so pretty. And I've been probably just gawping at our beautiful logo and kind of not paying attention to anything else. We will sort that out amongst other things. So, for the last two episodes, we had some sound difficulties. And I'm not going to go through everything that I did to try to fix these bloody sound issues, but it turns out in the end all I had to do was click a flag. A flag. After changing everything possible and checking the ping rate and checking out my hardware and all these other things, it turned out that all I had as a problem was that I was streaming on a Friday night when the rest of West Europe was playing games over Discord. So we are now coming to you live from South Africa, and
we all moved to South Africa.
And as a result, we now have more bandwidth to be able to do what we're doing. So there we go. And in typical spirit that it's been for this stream, when we first started, the graphic design was down to me, and if there's one thing we found out in the last week, I should never be responsible for graphic design. And
it's not that bad.
God.
Google Slides is a viable editing tool. Anyway,
No.
But yeah, we get a problem like this and we bounce back. We get another technical issue and we'll find another way around it. And every time we try to come back stronger than we did before. And that, I guess that's part of it as well. And it's actually led to the fact that we came here because of love of D&D, and one of the things that's carried me forward throughout all this is actually a growing love of streaming, which is crazy. So I'm going to show you all something now, which is going to make Corinne and Rodrigo cringe because they found out that I did this using OBS and Google Slides. It still requires a little bit of...
I just judge in silence.
Hey,
the good thing is that because
you, Nick, you said you liked it.
The good thing
my
is because
judgment has got nothing to do with whether or not I like it. Sorry, go on, Rodrigo.
The good thing is because if I open Twitch, my fucking internet catches fire. I won't be able to judge. So you have that benefit, Simon.
And Felicia just said, Simon, I will scream.
Remember, we're always watching. We're always judging.
Please remember that back when I was in school, we were using Paint, MS Paint, to design things.
I got pretty good at paint at one stage.
Hey, yeah, it's a dying art, dude. It's dying art. Anyway.
Have you heard about Homestuck?
I'm thankful that passed me by. I was officially too old for that.
So, I've put together an intro sequence. It's just a little thing for anybody who is watching to get an idea of the characters before we start a session. This requires a little bit of polishing, but I think it's pretty much most of the way there anyway, until I get kidnapped by the rest of the Chaotic Neutral crew and put in a box for a week with a laptop that contains a decent video editing software. So,
Yes.
with no further ado, here's the intended opening sequence.
Die.
And we are back. So that's as it is. Thank you very much, Rattle. It's just something simple that we put together, just with a little bit of music as well. So we've got hold of some royalty-free music. I've actually been speaking to a couple of extra composers as well for some coming soon music to help out with that as well, because we tend to leave it on for a few minutes before we get started, and just add that as a little bit of extra enjoyment to the stream. So, hello, Kate. We've got Kate in the chat there. Kate is on her way to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, and you're gonna have a great time there. If you bump into them, I doubt that they will know you. Actually, no. Joe Taylor Mills will probably recognise you, Kate. The Heroes of Renown are up in the Edinburgh Fringe Festival at the moment, so you may bump into them there.
Cool.
So,
Cool.
First of all, I'd like to talk about the characters. Yeah, I've spouted off for a little while, and I'd like to speak to you guys individually. So, I'm going to start off with top left, Rodrigo, and ask you.
Hello.
I didn't know I was taking the exam first.
Shit.
I'd like to talk to you about Aiden. I think
Yes.
one of the main reasons that I'd like to speak about Aiden first is that I think he's probably one of the characters that the viewers might not be able to get some of the subtleties about him, and I think he's probably the easiest to misinterpret. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, like, here's the thing. I want to think that, but I also don't want to disappear up my own ass. So.
No, I think it's fair to say that he himself. I mean, you can talk about him rather than you. I think it's safe to say that he has that level of complexity and also that level of obscurity. Now, the one thing that people see in the stream that they probably wouldn't want to have too much of in their game is a character that just goes and drinks or goes and stays in bed.
TV.
But there was actually a very conscientious decision behind that, wasn't there?
Yeah. So I deliberately made Aiden have depression, and I wanted to have a. Okay, so here's the thing. Yes, I made Aiden alcoholic, but here's the thing. I don't know shit about like drinking and alcoholism, so yeah, my part of that might be exaggerated, right? Um, just hey, surprise, I don't drink, so I don't know how much is too much.
You're not missing
Um,
anything, dude.
right. So, yes, I might say the drinking aspect of Aiden is maybe a little exaggerated, but after that, I genuinely wanted to convey what it means to have depression. Um, and yeah, for example, Aiden being stuck in bed all day and having almost zero interest in anything, or not having the motivation to do fucking shit all.
Hmm.
That I can speak from experience. That's kind of how it goes when you have depression, and that's something I really want to convey with them.
And this is a compliment that I wasn't. I took a while for me to kind of put it together in my head. I've played a lot of Vampire the Masquerade and things like that, where people do try to approach things like depression and things because, well, life of a vampire is fucked up to put it bluntly. But I've never seen somebody not just act, because I know that you know depression well. You've had it in your life, certainly more than I've had it in mine. So I certainly would defer to you there. But you've not only know it, but you've been able to communicate it across in the character very, very well. You know, you've not just lived it, but you've been able to act it very, very well. And as I say, that's a compliment. I don't know how I would be able to do that. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, but I still want to make Aiden like a fun character to watch and interact with, because it's still a D&D game. It's still
Yeah,
about
you
killing
can only
goblins
have
and shit
so
like
many
that.
scenes. You can only have so
Yeah.
many scenes when you waste when you spend a certain amount of time trying to get a character out of bed. That's if you did that every time, that would get very tired fast.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Like I know.
Thankfully,
There's a
be
lot
very
of things
balanced.
about Aiden. Yeah.
Mm.
There's still a lot of things about Aiden that I need to figure out. Like I need to Aiden doesn't like to talk. He's a really reserved person. Plus, he has that good old social anxiety, so crowds are bad for him. Um, so, and that's still things that I want to bake into the character. But at the same time, as a player, I'm like, okay, I need to find a way to not just sit around in the entire session saying fuck all and just waiting for someone to talk to me or waiting until Simon throws something on my way. I need to find a way for Aiden to be proactive. How do I do that in a way that fits the character? It's not just me going, hey, is that the script? Um,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
you've provided something to the game though that I would never have expected. In that, first of all, you're a person that they've actively chosen to care about, albeit in Eclipse's annoying ways sometimes. But you've actually provided a bit of an emotional canvas with which people can turn around and say, "Yeah, this guy, we have to pull him out of his shell," and but that's allowed them to do that. If everybody's super confident, then you just end up with a party of egomaniacs. And believe me, I've been in that party. I've effectively been that party single-handedly.
A party of all glory,
Oh,
and I
God.
think
oh no, that is a nightmare. Don't say that. Oh.
who scored the most ladies?
That
was
is a fucking nightmare. No.
The other part is that there's an essential character in any form of comedy, and that's the straight guy. Yeah, the straight guy is so important when it comes to delivering jokes and also being a little clown shoes, a little bit more colorful.
Yeah.
It's hard to be colorful if you don't have someone to give that juxtaposition. So it was a bold choice, and it's really worked well. And as a result, now we've got this delightfully moody character. And well, you saw the art in the intro, the one that Blue Kev did of this grizzled dark character almost coming out of the shadows, but also looking like he belongs there. And that's a cool.
Yeah, the thing about Aiden that I genuinely want to like have it come across. Don't know if I've done it correctly. Maybe I haven't, and if I haven't, I'm gonna working on that. But the way I've been role playing Aiden, the way you look at Aiden, even like again, look at the art, and he's a blood hunter. He comes from a family of vampire hunters, and he has all these like really like morbid abilities. So he gives you an idea of like a grizzled person who's been through a lot. He kind of like a war veteran, kind of sort of, right?
Yeah.
Um, the way he acts, he gives the impression that he's angry all the time and shit like that. That's not how like that. Like for me, that's not Aiden. Aiden is not a grizzled veteran. He is not he is not like an action hero. He's not like angry all the time. He's sad.
Yeah.
He's fucking sad. He's tired. That's the crux of him. Um, he didn't want to be a blood hunter. He just wanted to do his own thing, so fucking somewhere else. Um, he wanted he just wants some peace and tranquility. And yes, he frequently acts annoyed and he's sarcastic, but again, um, that's why when Aiden had the dream of his mom turning out, no, it's not his mom, it's a vampire, which by the way, dick move, Simon. But also, but also that's why when Aiden had that dream and he came out of the tent, that's why his first reaction wasn't, "Oh God, we need to get to Amberglade. Oh, what the fuck," right? He just shut down.
Yeah.
He immediately shut down because Aiden is not, again, he's not a action hero. He saw that and basically any hope that, because so far, I guess this is kind of a spoiler, but maybe not that much because I conveyed it through role playing. But Aiden's mom is probably the one member of his family that he actually genuinely loved. And so to have a vision of going, so like when you have someone telling you, "Oh yeah, she's okay, totally," and then you have a dream going, "Nope, she's a vampire." No, she's not a vampire, but it was a vampire pretending to be your mom. Your mom is still, who the fuck knows where she is. So when he sees that, he basically just fucking shuts down immediately.
And that's very real. And I must admit, it part of the challenge of writing the meta story for Aiden is that because you've told me about all of this in advance and all the rest, I feel really bad for torturing him even more. And this is a guy who used to write World of Darkness scripts. I'm like,
he really doesn't. I promise you, he doesn't feel that bad. He's a dungeon master. They never feel that.
But okay, comparatively,
Nope,
compared to the joy that I have of torturing Farewell, I actually hesitate with Aiden. Yeah,
Right.
because Aiden already has this tragedy that he had at session 0, and okay, you provided lots of color in that. When you described the Canelm family, I was like, oh my god, you've given me the Van Helsings of Illyria. Illyrio's Van Helsings are the Canelms. You are one of a very few remaining members of the greatest vampire hunters of this world. Now, considering some of the history of the world, like Illyria has had a problem with the undead in the last 1,000 years. They've had Cult of Orcus rampaging over the world. I'm still having to tie up that particular part of the history, in fact, because that actually started about 20 years ago. That story, as in 20 real years ago, when I was 18 to 20. I did a campaign called Heroes of Ravensridge, and they were going to fight the Avatar of Orcus. So undead have
Damn.
been a big detail, and the Canelms would have been there front and center. They would have sent for the Canelms to be marshals, generals in this huge war effort against the undead, and now the family has nearly been wiped out to a man. So when you gave me that, it was incredibly powerful. And yes, now I have to give you this tragic, unrelenting storyline because, well, the undead don't relent. Once they're rich, till they stop.
I do want to have a talk with you, Simon. Maybe not here because again, it might go into spoilers of both you and I want to do with Aiden.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I do have like an arc set up for him. Not set up, but like I have thought of like where I want Aiden to end up eventually.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'll discuss with that further another time.
Sure.
What you
But
need is not. Isn't therapy with adventuring with this adventure party the greatest thing that has ever happened to Aiden?
Well,
Yeah.
the trope is that well-adjusted, well-rounded people don't throw themselves at dragons for money. And it's just nice to see
Yeah.
that we're not ashamed of following that trope to its absolute,
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah.
logical conclusion.
Yeah. Yeah, like that's the thing, like because like I want to say that before Aiden joined the group, like it's so funny we still don't have a name for our group, but honestly, I don't know what will it be by this point. Before
I with like Emerald Wardens or something. I think we threw around.
do we?
I'm not sure. It was something thrown around.
But
That
yeah,
sounds
but
like
before
a pseudonym
Aiden,
for Glitter Force. Now let's let's put that out to some sort of think tank. I don't
also
know.
Felicia, no.
Oh, that ship has sailed, my friend. That ship has sailed.
Um. But yeah, what I was gonna say is that yeah, like the we I don't want to call it sad, but I also don't want to call it good either. But the weird thing that has happened to Aiden is that joining the Green Organization has probably been the best thing that has happened to him because the way I think about Aiden, the way I think about his character, and the way I think about everything that he has gone through so far, if he hadn't joined the Green Organization, if he hadn't met Glory, Farewell, Cora, Eclipse, right? He'll still be sleeping in the streets. He'll still be a hobo that that just happens to have a sword, right? Um, he'll still just be drinking himself to oblivion on or on cheap bars, right? That's what he'd be doing right now if he hadn't joined the Green Organization.
Yeah.
So now, yes, he's been going through a lot. Thank you, Simon. But but at least he's able to do some good in some way. At least he thinks so. And I think the influences of I want to say both Eclipse and Farewell might do him some good. So, um, uh, so yeah, that's the weird thing. It's like, oh yeah, this party of weirdos and a degenerate are probably the best thing that has happened to him in a long fucking time.
As you said, that you and Felicia talked that Aiden and Glory are a lot more similar than you would think to begin with, and we find that hilarious because how much Aiden hates Glory. Glory likes Aiden, but Aiden hates Glory.
Yeah, again, Aiden hates. He started hating Glory. Like he disliked Glory at the beginning because Glory, like she didn't even try to hide it. She's like this, socialite, pretty clothes. She's always talking big and always talking about ambitions. So for Aiden, whose family has had a history of being fucked over by nobles, he's like, okay, this is just another. Yeah, Aiden thinks the fucking like the high class of the world are fucking scum. So when he sees Glory, he thinks, oh yeah, she's fucking scum, right? But when dislike turned into hate was the deal at the consortium, right? Um, because in his eyes, Glory would put anything like Glory. There is no price too high for Glory to reach her ambitions, right? Whether that be, selling information, killing someone that's either innocent or not, or doing some rather horrific things. That's not, that price is not too high for someone like Glory. He in his mind, in Aiden's mind, Glory would happily sell out anyone just for some gold and some influence, right? And that's when Glory went, okay, I don't like this person. I think she is repugnant and awful. To I feel this person is a threat to anyone who is alive around her.
Yeah.
Yet he spent the last 4 months stood next to her.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Right, yeah. Because the reasoning being, like, again, as he said to Eclipse that one time, it's like, I'm keeping an eye on her. She steps out of line, I can and will fucking end her.
Yeah.
That's the deal. Right. Whether that has changed or not due to recent interactions with her, maybe, I don't know. He's been going through a lot lately. So
Right.
so I'm gonna give that bit a little more thought. So yeah.
I think with part of that, it's about. I think once she gets to know any hidden depths of Aiden, she'll just go, "Oh, that's interesting." I think once Aiden starts looking at the hidden depths of Glory, I really can't tell if he'll hate her more or less.
Right, yeah, that's
He'll
something
either
I've been thinking
suddenly,
about too.
yeah, he'll either suddenly go, "Oh, that's why you're the way you are." Right. Okay. We did have a little bit of that at the funeral of Marcus, where you just had a moment of truce where you had that momentary heart to heart that was, it was a very sweet moment, and I don't mean sweet as in cute, but it was a very on the point moment where you saw the character
Right.
growth between them. And Glory, yes, she will do anything for power because she believes it's a cruel world. But power isn't enough without purpose. Now, she's trying to become powerful within her family so that she can protect her family, but also protect herself from the elements of her family that will try to test her to the point where she dies. But she also starts to see you guys like family, unless, of course, you go against her. And that voracious ambition starts to be applied to you guys in terms of action. And I think that's going to be important for this game. I think that's going to be. You've got a lot of very brutal people around you, people who have already been introduced in various parts. You've met Creda Morticia, known as the King of Thieves. You've met, well, you haven't met the Duke, but you've heard enough and seen enough of his work to know that the Duke is a piece of work. You've met a couple of the other unsavory characters throughout the city. And then there's Renata herself, where you honestly don't know if she's absolutely on your side or really not. So, again, that's something that will pan out as part of that. And maybe a Machiavellian, hedonistic, glass cannon socialite is something that you really need in your deck, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe. Right.
We as players, to to alleviate any worries, we all love all the other characters. We love all the characters. It's just character drama in between things.
Yep.
Yeah, like if I find a way to force Aiden to like Lori, that wouldn't feel like Aiden. So you know.
There'll always be that, well, the relationship I think of is Quark and Odo from DS9. They never turn around and actually become friends, but they can't, you know, they're devastated.
They're totally friends.
Yeah, yeah.
It is that trope, though, and like you said, God knows where this will end up. But it is interesting to see how a lot of the interpersonal relationships are developing quite organically. Because it's never easy when you're at the table, let alone there's several 100,000 miles between you and the other player, and you meet once a week for 3 hours a week to get some genuine human organic growth. And it's been beautiful
Yeah.
to sit back and watch some of that growth that interact between the players and stuff like that. So I'm interested where things are going, and I'm here every single week, so I'm sure everyone else is.
Yes.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. Another thing. I'll try not to drag this too long. I do want us to move on to the other characters, but it's something else that I do want to explore with Aiden in terms of themes is also like his relationship to his family, because I thought about this, and Aiden both loves and hates his family in almost equal measures.
Yeah.
He respects his family because he thinks that his family's ideals are really noble. He thinks that the job they do is actually like or they used to do, I guess, it was actually like good, like something to help, like helping others, self-sacrifice, all that thing. He was all behind that. What he didn't really like was the fact that he he never he was never one to fight. He never really wanted to be a blood hunter. But it's family tradition. You have the last name. You have to drink the Kool-Aid. Uh, so, so yeah, and it's like that's why when he was talking to Hector, and Hector was like, "Oh, I respect you so much because you didn't want to do it, but you still felt like it was your duty." And Aiden was like, It wasn't much duty. It was like someone was sticking a knife to your back, right? He didn't do it because, oh, it's my responsibility. He was doing it is because, no, fuck you. You don't get a choice. That was the whole deal, and that's why. And, and that's why when he thinks about his family, and that's why he thinks about when he woke up and he like when he woke up in a shallow grave and the entire estate was burned to cinders, and he was at the time he thought he was the only one left standing. That's why he felt equal amounts of grief, because these are the people you spent so much time with, that you loved and you looked up to, but at the same time he felt some relief, right?
That
he,
certainly
he felt
tracks.
some
Yeah.
relief, right? And that's why he's not in Vestad. He's not trying to rebuild the estate. He ran away. He ran away for 3 years trying to see what he could do, right? And that's why when he gets the letter from Hector, his immediate reaction is to burn it. All right, and then immediately jump into the expedition to find out their memories, not just because, okay, we need to find what the fuck happened during those 3 weeks, right? But also because I need to get the fuck away from Hector, right? Aiden has been and is still running away from his family. Um, and I don't know how this is going to end up. So.
You and me both. I have set out a bit of a if this then that diagram for myself as to how this would work out. You're right, Hector, the old wolf. I wanted him to be different to the kind of usual grizzled, doesn't give a shit kind of, may as well be John Wayne type character, and have someone who's
Yeah.
got a modicum of wisdom and savvy, if not intelligence. And he is just raw personality. That's what he is. And so yeah, he knew that you were that you didn't want to be a blood hunter, but he also knew not to try and take you with him or spend too much time. He gave you the tools to do more, and now you can harvest the undead for ritual components. Although I think you gave the book to Farewell.
Yeah.
He's got the
never
book
gave
back,
I think.
but Farewell convinced him that
Oh, right.
it would be better in his hands than any other. So,
All right.
fortunately, but for Hector
Hmm.
and for Aiden, I believe in the long run, there
So,
won't be too much guilt and certainly not too much regret there.
in addition to that, final point from me on Aiden is that Aiden's story made part of Illyria. So I haven't drawn up all of the maps for all of the places in Illyria because I want to be able to just slot things in according to my players when they say, "Oh, I'm from a place that's like this." You didn't so much give me a description of the place, but you gave me a description of the family, and I was like, I want a place that is like the veil between there and the Shadowfell is super, super thin. Yeah. If Cursestrad was ever to go off in this world, it would be in Vestad. And so
Absolutely.
I made this place where death is just so close. Life just feels thin and thready. It results in thin, weedy, spindly plants. Trees can't grow straight. Crops are normally small and mean, and the weather is always kind of overcast. It's almost Britain. Well, specifically Wales. So although I'm going there on holiday, so fuck me, right?
Yeah.
It allowed me to make the start, which is effectively cartoon Transylvania. The real Transylvania is actually quite nice. But yeah, this is cartoon Transylvania. That with all the expectations and vampires therein, and that's your old place. And you were right with one thing, Aiden, to clarify something. You could rebuild the estate because, assuming that your mother is no longer with us, you're the heir.
Oh no. Oh no, responsibility.
Let's move
Right.
on to another character who
Mm-hmm.
also had a similar tragedy, and that's Farewell Barebones. When Nick first gave me his character bio, I really loved the idea of this caravan of genasi, what you call it, going from village to village where they didn't have their own temples, their own churches. The Raven Queen needed to come to them, and so you had these grave clerics and a caravan devoted to taking them from place to place to say prayers over the dead, to tend to the dying and the sick, to help people move on, and to resolve disputes that may be outstanding from the departed. So, Nick, do you want to tell us something about where you got the character from?
Oh God, no, that's a good question. I'll be honest with you. He started off as a really bad joke. So for those wondering, I got to meet Simon because he put a post up on the UK Critical Role Discord, which I had joined and hanging out for MCM London when the Critical Role cast were coming to the UK for the very first time. And he was like, yeah, put a call out for new players. And I thought, well, you know what? I fancy a 5e campaign. Let's give it a go. What's my character going to be? And I sat in front of my computer. I had the player's handbook out, and I sort of just stared at this blank screen. And so I thought, you know what? Well, let's start where I always start, which is names. And I started going through previous characters, and none of them felt right, and none of them seemed to be in the mood. And I just started looking up, for some reason, Puritan names. And I have no idea why. I don't know how I ended up there, but I did. And it turns out that there was a family of Farewells. There was in the American and British records, there was 4 Farewells that went across with the Pilgrims. And I thought, well, that's not a bad name. It's not a bad name for a cleric, and it sort of just Oh yeah, it's nice to know I'm that engaging. Um,
No,
and
it's Roger's computer killed itself for a bit, so
That's okay.
we decided to come back
This is
on.
all to do with the audio anyway, so let's just keep talking.
I sort of built it up from there, and then I thought the idea of, especially from our own country's history, that that only sort of big towns got churches and had clerics and had someone that would maintain. And I just thought, well, what on earth would happen to all these tiny little villages? And I thought, well, it would be interesting if you had a world where, too much death can actually cause them to come back. That being an industrialist type of humanoid species that we are, one of the first things that we would do is try and solve that problem. I thought it'd just be fun to have a roving band of family that found themselves on a plane so alien to where they're from, but having such an understood problem, and just thought, you know what, we like traveling, we want to explore. Let's also service our god, and it's that caravan wasn't just them. It was, people would join and leave whenever they wanted to. Merchants would connect onto it as they were going in the same direction. There's a real safety in numbers. And they also have the benefit of that most bandits doesn't want to pick a fight with something that can raise the dead or put them into the grave.
Yeah.
And so there's a great number of safety there. So yeah, it just sort of grew from those core ideas.
No, I love the idea, and when you gave me what was a fantastic bio, talking about the Critical Role shout out, I ended up getting somewhere in the region of about 17 people who said they were interested, and I said, well, how about you give me a bio for your character, and if I like the character, because I don't really want to make judgments on the people, I barely know you, but if I think the character's a good fit, I'll go for it. And in the end, it turned out to be a handful of characters that I was like, I need this character in this campaign. This is a perfect character. And, farewell when he turned up and you gave the background and all the rest of us, they're saying this guy just completes it. There was almost like a farewell shaped hole in the campaign, and in you popped, So, yes, you've been traveling around for a long time, and your caravan fell into disaster, into a catastrophe. You want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. Just an interesting point as well is that bio thing that I sent you, I probably knocked that out in an hour and a half. It was just one of those ones where I just walked away, made something to drink, came back, and you're like, I need to have these by this date, and I went, oh crap, I've left this to the last minute again, and I just knocked something out in an hour and a half and sent you and thought, oh god, I hope this is good enough. I really hope this is good enough. It was like, I was honestly, it was. I was just like, I don't know what they're going to think of this. This is so daft.
That was great. I because obviously I read the bios as well with Simon, so I also really really liked your bio when it came through.
Yeah, I think it was Nick's bio that when I received it, I can't remember what you were doing, but I kind of took it to you. I remember and said, "Read this," and
Yeah.
and after that, you were like, "Yeah, definitely." So yeah, it's certainly very interesting. And since then, there are things that I would not show other players that I have written, and we've had discussions as to who Farewell is, what his type of character is, and so I've tailored his personal storyline to his mentality. I've given you a mystery. He's always been about learning about reality.
Yeah, which is, I assure you, gives me no end of headaches at times where I'm trying to figure out what's going on. because character's very good at mysteries. Nick, the person, has to work very, very hard at them. So my poor brain does go into overtime, and that was equally one of the things that I wanted to put into this character, because I usually play a lot more boisterous, melee-based frontliners who like to get up and close into the action and don't like mysteries. They like things to be very straightforward. It's almost, it's liberating to be so that free, because you can just act.
Yeah.
It's not always so good sort of at other times, and that can be quite interesting. So when I wrote Farewell, I looked at it as that there will always be times, especially in most adventuring stories, where that you come across something that you don't know what it is, but you can't destroy it, but you know you can't leave it there. And it's what would you do? What do you do with it? And I came to the conclusion that what they couldn't destroy and they couldn't give to the right authorities, that they would do the only thing that they thought was sensible, and that was keep. And they would have a sort of master of secrets whose responsibility it was to look after these things and make sure that everybody was safe and protected from them, but equally they could learn them and perhaps gain some additional knowledge. And without going into too many spoilers, that's where the undoing comes from, and that's where the tragedy stuck. And it's that old, I wrote it just enough that it gave me something to work off, but equally not enough that I knew where it was going, and that Simon couldn't throw me curveballs like he has done, with great big fucking rifts appearing above beds and mystical knives that are now bound to a soul, and things like that, which do no end of upset my beautiful green boy.
So yeah, you have a number of things that may or may not be clues. You have scryed into a dark place where people are screaming your name. You have been told about the fact that the Shadowfell is only one way to the Mortal Gate, so into the Land of Death itself, and that there is a form of limbo called Twilight, or some people call it the Veil. Other people call it Limbo, and it is just a plane of absolute darkness between here and the Mortal Gate. And depending on what your soul is like, you may pass through the Shadowfell, or you may pass through Twilight to go to the Mortal Gate, and it's pretty much the domain of the Raven Queen's angels as well, where they will try to guide people to their final rest with the gods or in hell. The Raven Queen is about the process of death. Once you're in the land of the dead, that's kind of it. It's like the difference between Anubis and Osiris. And so she does what she does. And she has her faithful that when they die are with her. And that seems to be the direction that Farewell is going. But yes, you also have that very interesting obsidian knife given to you by an ancient hag that seems to be in the Land of Death itself. And as you say, you can strike through the air, create a rift through death into nearby places, giving you a form of shadow step. And there's more. Things die around you, it gets more and more powerful, and you're able to use that energy for quite devastating strikes. Now,
which will never be a real problem for Farewell, considering the company that he keeps.
Exactly. Now, the interesting thing is that the dark energy that coalesces around the blade has never been seen by Merrick Briarstone, but effectively you guys both use the same entropic energy, except you don't really have a choice. You have a knife, it does the thing, whereas he willingly goes towards it. Now, Merrick's actually my player character on a Wednesday night. I played him 2 days ago, it was amazing, and he's still very much a young boy there, and you're meeting him at a much higher level. But immediately Farewell took to disgust when he mentioned his study of entropy. Please elaborate. Why is Merrick a dick?
It is in this is of course from Farewell. It is in part his absolute assurance that he's right and that thousands, if not tens of thousands of years of this is kind of the way that it's worked out for a reason. And these are super divine beings who have a level of omniscience that he does not, are wrong. And so the dogma part of Farewell, which there's always a certain part of that when you have a structured belief system around somebody, especially one that's so ingrained into them as they are, as this one is. The other is, of course, is that he sees this, Farewell is not very good at putting his points across despite his intelligence. It's that people skill, that orator that he doesn't have. In that he can't convey that his problem is not so much that you can resurrect somebody for 200 gold, it's whether or not you should resurrect somebody for 200 gold, because it won't cure the problem of the young or the good dying old. You've now got the rich that will spend a lot of money keeping these machines away from anybody else, and then paying the poor or the needy to give up their life so they can extend their own. And that is his problem with this machine, because it's a lot harder, in his opinion, to coerce somebody like him, because of course the gods themselves can take his powers away. His power isn't within him like Glory's is. His power is there because he has that divine favor. This machine, however, completely circumvents any sort of control and lets any person usurp and assume that very dangerous position. And my understanding, from at least from this setting, is that to do something like revivify or even raise dead is incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
Which means you have to be very experienced and very strong to do it. And now you've got anybody can do it, and that's a dangerous tool, which, as far as Farewell is concerned, Merrick doesn't see.
Yeah. So you've hit on a lot of notes there about Illyrian culture. So, Revivify is a level 3 spell. It is effectively magical CPR. It is more common than the other spells. I appreciate the irony in the fact that CPR shouldn't be able to bring you back after you've had a bloody great hole shot in your chest, but apparently it's magic CPR, so it's much better. And so it is quite rare. Normally, if you're capable of performing that, you will be put in a position where you will be performing that, and you'll be getting a decent income as a result of it. And Farewell's one of those few people where he doesn't really care for money, but if he really put his mind to it, even at the level that he's at, he never learnt anything ever again, he could probably turn a really good wage. But it's more about what Farewell does to the world as opposed to just making a steady income.
Yeah,
Also,
sorry, go on, Rodrigo.
Oh no, it's okay. It was a last thing I wanted to talk on my end, but it was more about Farewell than anything. Something that I genuinely wanted to say is that out of all the characters in the party, he probably Aiden likes Farewell the most.
Oh.
Yeah, because I'm sorry.
After all that effort, Eclipse. After all that effort.
Yeah, it's the ship that can never set sail. No matter how much wind we put into it, it never sets sail.
I will say that Aiden does like Eclipse, but in a more serious note, the reason he likes Farewell so much is because in his eyes, in Aiden's eyes, sorry, Farewell is a genuinely good person. right? And
But I don't know
it
about
Aiden.
that.
Look, again in Aiden's eyes, I
Yes,
can't read
yes.
fucking minds. Aiden is not telepathic. Uh, so in Aiden's eyes, Farewell is a genuinely good person. And Aiden feels that a lot of what Farewell has, Aiden lacks, if that makes any sense. Um, and the only and in a way, if you look at it from like a more, I want to say meta, like a more outside perspective, both Farewell and Aiden are really similar in that both are related to undeath in some way. Farewell due to the Raven Queen, Aiden for being a blood hunter. Both hate undead. Both have tragedies where they lose their families. But Farewell is this. How do I say this? Farewell is, it's like soft-spoken, kind, and dogmatic, whereas Aiden is sarcastic, brooding, alcoholic, and a staunch atheist, right? And
I do love when characters are atheists in a world like
okay,
this. It's
okay, I
always so
say
sweet.
There is a fine line between, and it's one of my favourite lines in the Constantine movie that with Keanu Reeves, where he's trying to
really need to
convince
watch that.
Gabriel to cure him of his cancer because of all the good work that he's done, and Gabriel's telling him that no, you can't do that, John. That's not how it works. You don't do good deeds to be rewarded. And not only that, you're not a true believer. And John, in his anger and his rage, goes, I believed, and Gabriel quite rightly turns around and says, no, John, you know.
Yeah.
And there's a difference between knowing and
Yeah.
believing.
An atheist
And
is someone who doesn't believe in a god, and yeah, you can know the gods are there and not believe in them. So
Yeah,
exactly,
like
Just-
in because in context, Aiden also like grew up in fucking Vestad, where it's like, oh, it's Zombie Friday again, right?
oh, I want Zombie Friday. I want Zombie Friday.
Right. It's like, oh, it's
yes,
Zombie Friday again. I hope
it's the
everyone's
second
got
Friday
their
of every month. Yeah.
right, right. It's Zombie Friday, and it's the Canals who usually take care of those, not the gods or envoys of the gods. It's the blood hunters. Right. So it's not just that, but it's from, again, Aiden's depressed. So from that perspective, he feels forsaken, and thus he feels that gods are like lazy do nothings, and the only things that he finds useful related to them are holy water, and that's kind of about it, because holy water, like, hey, turns out undead don't like holy water. Who would have thought?
I
Right.
think in the end, what's going to surprise us is that in the end, Aiden is going to take he's gonna go a multi-class in the cleric once he finds his faith through Farewell.
I was
Yeah.
going to say a couple of levels in Paladin, but his charisma score sucks just as much as mine does.
Yeah.
So I think he's
Yeah.
got decent wisdom. That's why I said cleric.
I don't. I don't think that that'll ever happen, honestly. But I still find it interesting that the one person he trusts the most in the group is someone who, despite similar circumstances, is almost the exact opposite of him.
I think you're, and it might just be because I'm not making it as obvious, but the character's a lot more similar than you think. I mean, you quite rightly mentioned that Aiden is running away, and Farewell is absolutely doing the same thing. It's just that he's more, not saying clever, but craftily using his duties and his excuses to do certain things. He will use the fact that he has a ton of work that he has to do, and or that the party wants to do something else or go somewhere and do something as his excuse to hide from it, or throw himself into his work so he doesn't need to do it, because those couple of run-ins with his own family and that backstory we've done, I've not followed it up deliberately because that's not what Farrell wants to do. So it's quite interesting that despite all of us not knowing each other's characters, we are all a lot closer and a lot interjoined than we actually realise.
Yeah. Also, the other thing I interrupted you about, sorry, I didn't want to make all of this about Aiden. The other thing I wanted to say is that when you were talking about Merrick, for some reason, the only thing I could think about was that fucking shot from It's Always Sunny with Danny DeVito looking at the picture of a dog, and I just replaced Danny DeVito with Farewell, and it's him saying, I don't like this picture. It's Smug Aura mocks me, and the picture is instead of a dog, it's Merrick.
And I think that's the other part that I was going on to is also that it's Merrick's own personality that comes across that just grates. You know, he doesn't find Glory's self-assuredness that grating because he sees, or at least he perceives to see, the person behind it.
Yeah.
That there has to be a reason that she's quite so the way that she is.
Yeah.
And that he sits back and he's just interested to do that. And not only that, you know, Cora, who is his best friend, is also quite a gregarious person, but in a very different kind of way. But then he meets someone like Merrick, who is a colossal dick.
He's not.
Again, the farewell comes out, and it's a colossal dick. Just rubs him the wrong way, and that's why he finds the idea that, you know, even if they'd spent 2 weeks together, the likelihood is that he would have killed him and had to have been convinced to resurrect him rather than the two of them agreed to be friends. But, and I thought that was also a fascinating sort of little discussion that we had that we never got to really finish out because, you know, I think we got attacked or we had to go off and do something. Was the people that made the decisions, and that's one of the things I really enjoyed about the time skip that we did, because, you know, time skips can be really good or they can be really bad in terms of plots, telling devices.
It's a gamble.
And it's always a gamble. And whereas in this instance, we've now got, and we've been allowed to have this opportunity where we're following things up and we're following behind where we were. And there's an argument to say is that, are those the same people? Are we the same people? Are we different now? Are we changed? You know, we're walking back now into the facility that we supposedly either went into or got too close to. And were we different people going into what we came out? By taking that memory from us, did it change us? And then change us back into other people that we've now almost gone into a different timeline, so to speak. I find that really interesting.
Oh yeah, it's very, very interesting and weird.
But also, Nick, I also think you just gave Simon a bunch of ideas, and now I'm terrified.
Oh, don't worry. Things were already in motion for that. And going into the facility was always going to be a huge landmark. Because up until now, there's been very much a kind of a theme, a kind of pace. And now I've put you into a pressure cooker where you're like, yeah, you know, you're here. What are you doing? And, you know,
Parasites.
Yeah,
exactly.
Parasites and technology as well. I mean, this is like Area 51, man. This is heavy stuff. It's all with a magical twist.
Yeah, but we did a Naruto run into it.
But the interesting thing for me is you're now putting a bunch of characters that sort of move past that initial storming that they had, you know, when they were first getting to know. Because it was very beneficial for me and Kate, and if she was here, she could say something on this herself about the fact that we decided very early that our characters would know each other. And I think that we had one conversation before and during session 0. And then we just jumped straight into it. But that gave us at least a little something to fall back on and to have that stability that we didn't have a whole group almost in conflict as they learned each other's personalities and that. And then we're going to put all those people into a crucible now, and we're going to see how they're going to come out and how they're going to be afterwards. That is just going to be fascinating, I think. And yeah, and it was a small minor miracle that it worked so well because Kate went, well, we just know each other, we can be friends. And I went, yeah, cool, that sounds fun. This is my character's, some of my character's story. And she went, this is some of my character's story. Cool. Right, let's play some D&D. And it just literally just went from there. So what you don't see is there's an awful lot during some sessions, especially if it's going to be bits where like our characters' interaction comes in, that there'll be furious private messages between the two of us, just filling each other in on little bits that we hadn't mentioned before, so that one doesn't catch the other one out.
Yeah. So you're right, and some of the fleshing out of the Cora character to kind of have a bit of a segue between Farewell and Cora is that when Cora found Enola dead, in her backstory,
Supposedly.
and
Allegedly.
the first person,
Allegedly.
Yeah.
this is the story you know. Well, this is the story the players know at least.
Yeah.
The first person that she went to was Farewell. She ran straight out and had to convince Farewell to help her for reasons I will not spoil her. And Farewell went with Cora to where Enola's body was, and it didn't take long. Okay, 20-minute round trip, and Enola was gone. Farewell was ready to try revivify, even though he didn't have that connection with the goddess. He would have tried it for her. He would have given the prayers, asking soul to be returned while he repairs the body. But she was gone. And that was, I think, a year or two before session 1. And
a year. The way
it is a year, yeah.
There was it was a year of them getting to know each other, and then I think in some period during the second year this happened.
Yeah, and Kate's just said in the chat 1 year. So it's been a year since Enola's gone. Cora has established herself and her current persona, I guess. And she's had Awen for a year. She's had the abilities to throw these strange telekinetic force bolts just out of sheer will. And that's something that, at some point I will have a sit down with Kate. I kind of want to have one-to-one with each of you at some point and record it. But that's something where, and mechanically, Eldritch Blast, it's the thing that the Warlocks have.
Say the line, Bart.
Yeah.
Say it.
Exactly. But
yeah, but she does it with such style and flair.
Yeah, but to be fair, if I could throw telekinetic force bolts from my fingers, I'd be using that shit to open doors and bottles. Yeah, so I'd probably break a lot of stuff. But yeah, if I could throw these bolts of will from my fingertips, just by focusing my will, I would absolutely do that. And so yeah, Cora just has this gun in her hands that she can use at all times, and these extra abilities too.
That reminds me, there is a character on JoJo, specifically Part 2, which is really interesting because it's kind of what you're saying, Simon. In Part 2, the main power of the show is like this mystical energy called Hamon, which is powered by the sun, right? And, it's mystical mumbo jumbo, right?
Yeah.
And the hero of Part 2, which takes place, by the way, in the era of World War II, even though he has this mystical energy, you know, like basically solar powered magic, he uses it in really inventive and like unorthodox ways. Like one of the things he does is that he what it was he chases off a fucking burglar, right?
Mhm.
Because he had a bottle of Coke in his hand, and he focused the energy into the Coke so that Coke will start bubbling, and then it will pop the cork with such force that it'll basically a bullet and shot it straight into the burglar.
Oh god, this is like World of Darkness Mage. You can do crazy stuff like that, like, you know, take down a plane with a bottle of champagne or something. Yeah.
And then
That's
later
crazy.
he does the same thing. Instead, he channels the energy into the sun, into the bullets of a Tommy gun.
Yeah.
Boom.
And this might actually be a fantastic moment to take an early break because not only can we then go and talk about Eclipse, which I'm really looking
Mhm.
forward to hearing more about, but Kate may actually be finished and up to a point that she can join us, as she's just
Yeah.
dropped a
Which
message
means
into
we'll
the
also be
Discord.
able to add Cora to the list. Well, in that case, it means
Yeah.
that we will be able to use the other frame that Felicia provided for us, which allows for all of us to be here. So, yeah, we will
Yeet.
take a short break, and we will see you guys on the other side. And let's have a look. Rattles and who else is
Okay.
here? I've got Rattles, which is Ganondorf, and then I've got Host Me Raffle, which I'm pretty sure is a bot. Um, so yes, if anybody who's in the chat does want to throw some questions in, please feel free, and it can be for either the setting, so myself, or it can be for any of the players. Anyway, we will see you on the other side.
See you in a bit, guys.
I'm going to have to switch it to starting soon because I realise I have no waiting screen in this
We're
format
on a
yet.
break.
Okay.
Welcome back, everybody, and we're joined also by Kate. And as I say, because of various holiday preparation shenanigans, many of us haven't got our webcams on, and you'll also see Felicia in the chat. So, when we left off, we were talking mostly about Farewell, and but we did talk about the interaction between Farewell and Cora. Now that we have Kate, we can kind of segue between the two. Before I finish off with Farewell, though, what's that? Sorry.
I thought I was next.
Well, no, we was talking a bit about Kate at the time. Sorry, Cora at the time. To finish off with Farewell, the thing about Farewell and his mostly disappearing family, if I'm right, there were some people who were dead around the caravan. Is that right, Nick?
Yes, so there is, which I think I mentioned in the story. I forget sometimes. I need to check
I'm playing
my notes.
careful that I'm not spoilering anything for you.
Exactly. There are reasons why Farewell found himself in Ostergard rather than just trying to set up. I think it's pretty obvious from how I play him, he's not the natural leader type. He doesn't like leading, so to be one of the very few clerics that survived, to then be pushed into a position of perhaps responsibility was not his idea of fun, which is when he found himself in Ostergard, and he doesn't know if they're alive or not, or what form they're in, but they certainly were bodies missing, and that forms part of the search that he's doing and that we've been doing as characters, and especially for Farewell, that sense of that loss that he had is probably one of the reasons why he got so close to Cora and this almost new family that is growing up around him, because he suddenly had something that he could strongly hold on to.
Yeah.
It was just a little bit more stronger in his eyes than what he came from, because everyone seems to be able to look after themselves, and he quite kind of likes that, even if he has to pay party dad.
Yeah. Which,
by the way,
I don't want to talk to me.
which, as a player, I am never that person ever. I am always the one that has to be told off by party sensible. I'm always the one that causes all the problems. And now to have to sit
not to us.
Yeah, and now have to sit here and be like, oh shit, I am the sole voice of reason in the room. Oh my god. There is years of table and RPG karma that is just coming back to bite me in the arse.
Oh, I know that so well. The pain is real.
The years of like sitting there with a shit-eating grin whilst I've just fucked everybody on the table over, and then just walking and just going, well, I don't have to clean it up. It's not my fault that I've just shit in the middle of the table. I'm not cleaning it up. You can. And I'm the one stood there with the rubber gloves, and it's just like, how did I find myself in this position?
The funny thing is that, because this is the only game of D&D I play with you, Nick, I hope it's not the last, but it's the only one I've played with you so far, I cannot picture you as the troublemaker.
I
just cannot.
There are stories that Roan could tell you. So the very first RPG to talk about myself just a little bit that I ever played with Roan, her character and mine introduced us. I walked into this table. He was this big swaggering pirate. He was full of bravado. Roan took one look at that and went, "This will be a laugh," and hit my character over the head with a table. And it just went from downhill from there. It was just great big brawl, and before we knew it, we got to know each other really well. And she would go almost bold trying to keep me out of trouble because I could always find it in the most innocuous of places. And I'm obviously a lot older now, but especially then, I had a hair trigger for like just starting a fight, and it would just go. So to be sat here now and being like, maybe let's not kill everything. Yeah, let's take a little bit of time, and not be the one that's just like, yeah, fuck it, let's go on, let's have some. It is funny to me, and it's even hilarious. And if she does hear that all of you think, oh, there's no way you can be like that, she'll piss herself laughing.
God.
Honestly, I was
We
a
need to do some
colossal-
one-shots where we play different characters and see how different it is. It's
I
going to
am
be like
so up for
mind
that.
blown. My mind is going to be blown. I'm like, no, this is not. I don't know Nick. I only know Farewell, and I'll be like, oh no, who is this person?
I don't think you. Problem is, I don't know if I want to let him out because I'm not sure you play with, because sometimes it's a lot to deal with.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I'd be like, oh.
That's the thing. Like, I wanna play more games with you, Nick. So I don't know if you should go full on troublemaker.
Well,
The-
I've
Ooh.
got a ton of pirate one-shots that I've done for other people, here in either in my flat or at the guild on a Wednesday night, that I can recycle and throw at you guys at any point if you've got a weekend that you're bored, and maybe we can let reckless Nick out and screw stuff
Simon,
Do you like
Simon.
pirates?
up.
I'm bored every weekend.
Well, I can do
You
that.
know, every year at Talk Like a Pirate Day, I kind of miss it and want to do something, and it usually passes me by. So, and I have loads of board games that are pirate related. And last time I
Oh
tried
God.
to do that, Yeah.
I have and always will have a very, very, very soft spot for pirates. Pirates are what next to sorts of like VTM and things like that are one of those like just fun character and games and periods to just play in and have a lot of fun, because people forget that they're also super democratic. Like super,
Yeah.
and like they're not pirates, they're privateers, mate. And you can have so many different types of trophy fun with it and just like be so off the wall and batshit crazy. But yeah, certainly there are very different facets of characters that I've played in the past, and Farewell is the very first time I've played somebody that's very softly spoken, very gentle, very kind, sort of person who really is just finding himself stuck in the world. And that's one of the reasons why I want to play him, because he simply was not that character that I usually play.
Right. I think we got a bit sidetracked. by the
Yeah.
way, so-
Final word on pirates, by the way. I've mentioned the Brotherhood of the Seven Sails in the campaign so far. I've just put a link into the chat using Casca Niobe, and that, please don't judge me, although it's going to be cringeworthy again for Aiden and Rodrigo and Corinne, because I also did this on Google Slides. And
Oh,
it's
dear.
it's a video I made a long time ago, and it's actually to some stuff that's not royalty free. So this is actually what I used at a tabletop. Thankfully, because it's on a private YouTube thing, it doesn't mess up any license agreements. But yes, it will tell you about the the Brotherhood of the Seven Sails. I need to remake it with some royalty-free music at some point, but this is something that I made years and years and years ago. And yes, yes, Felicia, what have we said about graphic design? Back then, you didn't know. I didn't know. I just threw something
Graphic
together
design
for.
is Simon's
Is my passion. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, if you at least the credits that I did at the beginning of the stream looked like it fit. This is abysmal, the link I've just put in, and I've been meaning for a while to delete it, but it'll actually tell you about the Brotherhood of the Seven Sails, and
Right.
the music in the background to credit them is Two Steps from Hell. Amazing ambient music place. And as I say, that's from my Rattles. I can fix it, dude. Everything is up from what you're about to watch if you ever watch that video. It is rock bottom. Just it's all uphill from there. But yeah, that was something I did just for some people around a table that I could put on the TV and show them.
Nice.
But the one thing it will do for you as players and for us to do one shots is it does tell you about the factions and what they do. Okay.
Nice.
There's also going to be a section in the Illyria guide which I'm going to be typing up. God knows. But I'm hoping to do before the end of September.
Plane.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, there's going to be bits I'll be doing whilst I'm on holiday as well, as and when it occurs to me. Anyway, let's get back on track. And if there's one thing that Farewell and Aiden share with Cora, it's the mystery that they have behind recent events. Cora has suffered the loss of a lover and the gaining of some powers. And if the two weren't so severely linked, I think she'd probably enjoy the powers more than she currently does. Although saying that, she seems to be throwing in. Things have become more complicated recently with strange visitations, a broken music box, a gift that was given, or at least a payment that was given for breaking said music box, a strange, bald-headed, orange-eyed, beautiful African woman, and most recently, Enola herself. Cora, also known as Kate. How do you think poor Cora's doing right now?
Well, she was doing okay, but I think she feels like she's just gotten herself cornered quite badly, along with the rest of the group, as in where we're at in the story. We all think we're just walking. I at least, well, Cora thinks, whether or not I can't speak for the rest. Cora definitely thinks she has walked into a trap and has willingly walked into a trap in a way, but is not sure what else could have been done, because walking away from it, you learn nothing and you don't know what the trap is. We need to get close enough to the trap to see what it is, to try and dismantle it or whatever, or not get trapped again. But yeah, I mean, there's things that I probably can't really talk about specifically, but Cora's kind of feels like she's that she has been here before a little bit, and that that she had joined the Green Organization to avoid something like this, and to try and to stop this for other people. And yeah, if she's not doing so good. She's not so, and we'll see what happens in the next few episodes. But if anything really bad happens, she ain't gonna be very good. She's I don't know what's gonna happen if it all turns south, because yeah, that'll be a lot of deja vu going on. So
No character deaths, hopefully.
oh god, yeah. So no, she's not in a great place. It's a little bit scary down here in this trap. Feels like there's no one's her friend except these four other people, or five if you count Eowyn. But yeah, that call to the to those guards, only for them to essentially be the bad guys, was not good.
Yeah, it was a bit of a shame that did we fix the sound by then? I think we may have. I think that was after the break where I suddenly clicked the flag, and the thing that I loved locally, I could hear the sudden intake of breath from one or two of you, and the look on your faces when I suddenly was like, "Why are you there?" And they were like, "Oh shit." These guys,
that was a very oh shit moment.
Yeah, super fast horses, They are out here surviving on their own. They're clearly powerhouses, and suddenly you realise they're on the same side as the killing machines that are trying to rip you apart and have just taken half of Aiden's hit points in a single attack. And at that point, I was just like, yeah, I'm feeling it for you, because if I was in the player seat right now, I would just be like, fuck it, mic drop, I'm leaving, you know? Not the player, but the character would be like, fuck this shit.
Yeah,
No
totally.
one is on my
It was
side.
very much that sort of moment of like, I'm not sure what to do here. Like, we should be running away, but like,
Leave it.
we foolishly like went, oh, there's a fire. Let's run into it. Like, I feel like that's what we did. It's like, but we won't know how to put it out if we don't run into the fire.
God.
Yeah, I can absolutely see where you're coming. I mean, for Pharaoh, I think he sees it more along the lines of there are moments where you are tested, and what you do in that moment is a measure of who you are, and that's a lot considering coming from somebody that's been avoiding a lot of those decisions.
Yeah.
But he could not walk away again. He felt that that's what happened to him last time.
Yeah.
And that's why you get
absolutely.
pushing unnaturally to push the fight. But to see, that moment, fucking hell, I was just like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no, we've got, oh no. And that was the only thing that was going through my head. In fact, I think I've got several lines of notes that just says, we fucked up in various different ways.
The thing is, I don't feel like there was any moments when or Cora and Kate, I think, of going, oh, we should have done this. Like that, I didn't see any other paths that we could have taken that we should have necessarily. Just apart from potentially going back to the city before we came here, but I don't know how differently that would have gone at all. So, you know, and still wouldn't necessarily have gone well. So.
And this is the thing, is that if you speak to a lot of my other players, I'm very fond of giving you one route with lots of big glowing signposts going, go this way, this is the obvious way. And some of the challenges along the way is not to follow that path and to think a little outside of the box. Now, whether or not you're happy to do that as a player, metagaming is not a dirty word, as much as we joke about it quite a lot. In D&D at the moment, there's a certain amount of meta that's allowed. It's only unrealistic courses of action that is a problem. But yeah, if you're there, like, you know what, I think this is the direction that we should be going in order to enjoy the story or to do better in the story. That's something that you as players can absolutely decide amongst yourselves, as long as it doesn't harm anybody's enjoyment of the game. Then you can make a decision. You know what, we're going to be the guys who did this. And for Cora in particular, I have put romance into this game. I have my usual policy of fade to black with sex and stuff like that. But you've got Glory, who, you know, we describe the various conquests that she has. But I've definitely thrown it into other places as well. So I've played characters who were attracted, NPCs that were attracted to some of your player characters, and you don't have to respond. There's no reason to do that. But that's a way of making a world feel a little more real. Like Lysandra is friends with Cora. Does she find Cora attractive? Kind of. She's not sure how she feels, and that makes a character really believable. By the fact that she really hasn't got a clue what she would want to do. If Cora did show an interest, she'd probably run a mile, even though she is interested. But that's a very realistic character.
Yeah, thanks for making me feel terrible right at the end of the session, by the way. Like, you know, really, thank you.
Which bit? What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
There was the bit where, like, our two wonderful other companions, who one of which is here and the other one is hiding in chat, implied that, of course, Lysandra did quite find Cora a lot more interesting than perhaps was believed. And Farewell went, I'm not sure Cora is ready for that kind of attention. she's been through a very difficult time. Are your intentions noble? And he just realised, he completely misread that level of interest.
Yep.
And has made her feel really bad, and he's just like, I don't know how to deal with this. I'm just going to walk away. Oh dear! Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh shit!
Was it? Because Glory did her finesse point, didn't she?
Mhm.
Yeah,
She did.
on Cora. Was
Yeah.
It?
No,
on
it
Cora.
wasn't. What was it on
It
me
was
or
on
was it on the
her.
other girl?
It was-
on the
It
other
was on the
girl.
girl.
Yeah, it was on Lysandra. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
she she always thought that you were pretty, that that you were nice, and she was kind of like, okay, I might be interested, I might not, but right now
No,
a friend
Felicia
seems
said
cool.
it
Oh yeah, no, right. It was on me. It was on me.
It was on Cora.
And then I said something that made her uncomfortable, I think.
Oh,
Yeah.
right, yes,
I'm
actually, okay.
trying to remember. I'm
But
gonna
yeah,
have to watch it back.
Either
Yes,
way,
it was on me.
it was
That's right.
it was one of those moments where Lysandra was kind of like, oh shit, someone just put the cards on the table, and I don't even know if I've got a hand, and that was it. It was just like, and again, believable characters, believable NPCs with faults, and NPCs that make mistakes that don't follow logic. They're the best way to fox a player in the most delightful way, where they go, surely they would have done this. It's like, yeah, but what if they were dumb? What if they had a moment of dumb shitness? I have them all the time. I bite the inside of my mouth, I stub my toe. NPCs are supposed to do that as well. So every now and
Also-
again, they'll do something that is outside of the logical progression, and sometimes you just have to forgive that and go, you know what? This is kind of against it, but everything else is for it. And so you will get people, for example, who think you're a dick, but they think you're a pretty dick. And so they might be attracted to the sight of you, and then you'll open your mouth and they'll go, nope, nope, done, kind of thing, and they'll be backing the hell away. So that level of spectrum and complexity in an NPC means that you can get some people who become a hell of a lot more believable, and it makes them more interesting for me as well, rather than having every merchant being the same, every pretty elf female that walks up to Glory being super interested because she's so charismatic.
I would say one of my favourite Cora moments that came out rather recently was the one where Kate, you decided to try to do the party sensible thing and get a call for backup, and then arranged a date off the back of it, because it was just super surreal. And it was just that wonderful moment of just a different kind of charisma, because it's always interesting to have two high charisma characters in a party. And you've got that wonderful overtness of Glory, who's very sure in who she was and what she is,
Yeah.
and goes for what she was. And then you've got the lot more, which plays into Cora's background, and that of the almost of the thief, the spy, of that subtle charisma, because I almost saw it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Kate, of that moment where she was like, oh, I saw where this is going. Well, I'm not adverse. This could be quite advantageous. Let's take advantage of
Was
this and
that
arrange
the
something.
random conversation with the girl in the woods?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the ranger. Yeah,
I had no intention to do any of that. It was just like the banter that started happening between me and Simon
Yeah.
as the NPC and stuff, and I was just like, I just decided to just get really chatty. There's a little, I do draw a little bit of Jester from Critical Role into Cora
You're
sometimes,
right.
and I think that some Jester came out, that kind of chatty, kind of like oh hi, what you doing? Oh, that's cool. Like just deciding to like have that kind of conversation that you shouldn't have
Right.
over a spell, like that was really long-winded. So, and it was just quite fun chats, like, oh, you're on your own. Why are you on your own? Like,
Yeah.
just really fascinated by this person.
and it was a beautiful
great.
moment of improv. Improv. Honest to God, I put in my head that if you did use your badges, you'd just get some random outrider of the Green Organization. And I gave her a name, and I put her through my character generator, and so I got her gender identity back and her, relationship status,
NPC
sexuality, all
Omatic
that stuff.
2000.
Yeah. I'm an Excel freak. It all got rolled. And so when you started talking, I was just like, oh yeah, okay, this is the person that I said that if you use your badges out here, you'll get this one person telling you, yeah, there's nobody else out here. And I thought that would pretty much be it. It's like, sorry, I'm a ranger. There's no one else out here. I'm kind of the furthest agent from the city. And then you started talking. I was like, oh, right, a conversation, sure, improv, here we go. And it was just certain phrases where all of a sudden I was like, what would she interpret that as? And then it got to a point where you new phone who dissed her, where she
Maybe fun with this.
and you started talking to her, and I can't remember which one of us. I'm going to go back and listen to that one because there was a line that one of us said, and I can't remember for the life of me which one of us it was, where suddenly the other one was like, "You coming on to me?" And they're like, "No, but maybe." And that's all it
you're
was.
right. I can't remember. I think I said something that was relatively innocent, but I think the way it was just because I kept talking.
Yeah.
It was like, are you hitting on me? It's like, oh, I wasn't, but what you look like, you know.
Yeah, kind of thing. It was-
Maybe.
I remember coming out of that
Yeah.
session, and I was like,
Definitely.
honestly, God, did we just do a fantasy new phone who dis? Oh God. So yeah,
So weird. But good.
it has really reinforced the Fey nature of Korra, which you kind of have felt this connection with the Feywild suffusing you, and she's already a energetic, lively, really fun halfling to have around. But then now there's these extra elements that are coming in as well, and we saw that with the funeral. Most of the funeral was actually meant to trigger Korra because of rage. We know about the burning band that she's wearing. Does trigger from a moment of role-playing rage and using a finesse point for her to leap in the body of flame. And so, yeah, a little bit of BTS here. I contacted Kate and I said, look, this is what's going to happen to your character. Your character's going to feel heightened. Play it as you want, but you've got to be heightened in some way. And then Cora just ran with it. Sorry, Kate just ran with it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was a joy to see, by the way.
That was fun.
I want to say as well that I don't know how this fits in everything, but like, from Aiden's perspective, Korra is probably the one person in the party that, how do I say this? It's not mistrust. Mistrust is glory, right? But it's
She's holding back. She's definitely not telling everything.
no, right. But it's like, you know how like Matt Mercer in Critical Role, every time someone rolls a low insight check, that he just says, "Oh, they're hard to read," right?
Mm-hmm.
That's how Aiden feels about Korra, even when he's not making insight checks. Like when he looks at Korra, he just doesn't know what her deal is, right?
Yeah.
And there's so much about her he doesn't know that in his mind, he's probably like, I don't want to say afraid either, but it's the one that he feels like really like, I don't know how to say it. It's not mistrust, but it's like,
I think
oh
I kind of
shit.
know what you mean. It's like
Yeah,
there's
words
like,
bad.
yeah, like you say, it's harder to read. Glory is kind of like her whole character is out there in how she does stuff, and so she's like, okay, I get this person's deal. This is what she's like. Whether I agree with it or not is a different matter. And yeah, Cora's got, so especially with the, I guess, with the powers and the fact that they keep changing, and there's been never a discussion of where, I mean, I suppose there's no discussion between characters about where any of their powers come from, I suppose, apart from Farewell coming from the deity. None of us really know where all of us get our powers from, but yeah, it's
And there is a benefit to having that surety, but you know, for Farewell, she's his best buddy. You know, the endless best buddy that he's very, very pleased to still have around, because she's at least that constant source of I don't know if sense is the right word, but certainly direction.
Right.
Yeah, I'd go with that.
I think I think the thing is as well that because there is that friendship between Farewell and Cora, it's it is off. My go-to is to interact with Farewell more than anyone else, just because like we're still, even though we've we've been together a while now, although we had that 3 weeks away. I'm trying to think, like, how long have we actually known each other in the real world?
That's the
Not
problem,
in the
is that
real
those
world,
3
but,
weeks you
in
can't
the
draw
game.
on any bonding experiences over those 3 weeks because you
No,
can't remember them.
and I'm trying to
Yeah.
remember like how many weeks gameplay we've actually had, like in-game
Oh,
thing.
prior to the
But
3 weeks?
yeah, like, well, just
Like a week and a
just
half.
generally, like,
Three.
how much?
Yeah.
A week and a half? Is
Oh,
that
it's
all
been
we've
longer than
played?
that. No,
It's
it's
been
been
longer
longer
than
than that.
It's got to be a bit longer than that, but it's
At
still not
least a month.
long.
Yeah, it's not super long.
No,
actually.
it
You reckon
wasn't
a
a
month?
month.
Yeah.
It wasn't a month. It was a lot shorter than that.
Yeah.
It wasn't
I
as
think
short
we-
as a week. It was a lot
No,
longer.
It
than
was,
a week.
but
if
it's
I
only
remember
like
correctly.
two or 3 weeks. It's not very
Yeah.
long.
Yeah, like I think the amount of time we spent together before the memory wipe was 2 weeks, if I remember correctly.
Wow. Yeah, so it's really not very. I mean, it's long and not long, because I don't know about you guys, but I've been on these sort of, I've been on a course or whatever where you've been with like thrown in with people for a week, and by some of these courses, at least, you by the end of the week you feel like you've known them forever. It's just
Oh
like
yeah,
you
the
bond,
same
you do
thing.
bond really quickly. But I think, but there's always that thing, if you know someone else on the course, you're going to interact with them more. So I think there's
Yeah.
very much that. Her go-to is like, I know this person enough and I trust this person. The other people I don't know as well. So he's, Farewell's always going to be the first person I ask, while including everyone else, rather than and that'll be interesting, as that's sort of like, I want to try and do more change of that, so that it's not the same every time, but it's finding those moments of why would they go to why would they approach one person over another and stuff like that. And because Farewell always seems like the wise person as well, it's like, well, this guy will know, because it's like he's
Yeah.
smarter than me, and he understands what's right and wrong, and I don't, I'll just do what I think is right. But
And that's kind of
Honestly,
been.
I do not know how I've ended up as the moral compass of any fucking party.
You're the cleric, it's natural.
Beyond me.
So yeah, it's been it's been part of the design of the first part of this game, is to throw you into situations where you have to do a little bit of glory stuff, a little bit of eclipse stuff, a little bit of whatever, so that you can get ready for this trial by fire. Because you're now
Oh, no.
you're now in the institute.
Yeah, I don't like how he said that.
You're now in the institute. There are lots of difficulties here. Resting is difficult
Why
here.
is never the nice thing named the Institute? Why is the Institute always evil?
Yeah, why can't we for once just go to the den of puppies and kittens?
It's
Why
called
can't
the
be the
Institute.
big thing that we need to find
Abyssal puppies. I
in the
like it.
nice in the nice soft room full of pleasant things with sweets and wonderful things, and we come out like just feeling so relaxed and well rested afterwards.
Now, see, I want a
No,
dungeon
we
that's
always-
exclusively Grimhounds and Flurkins now.
No.
Oh boy.
No.
Here, kitty, kitty. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so Cora is somebody where I'm having to play at the heartstrings again, with the same kind of tragedy that we said at the beginning of the episode regarding Rodrigo, where I'm there going, this poor Sada's lost like the love of her life, and I'm there having to play the heartstrings by throwing people in front of her who may be attracted to her, and then throwing a bunch of very Enola based events at her. And this is one of the things as well regarding the Faylock character that Kate is playing. She has no idea who her patron is. And this was something that I wrote before the whole kind of Ukatoa thing and all the rest of it. So that before that came up in Critical Role. And it's interesting to see how Matt Mercer has brought in Ukatoa as Ford's patron, and him suddenly discovering that and kind of comparing it to what I've been doing, where I've been teasing you with your patron, but no actual, well, lines of inquiry, but not actually kind of turning up and going, "Hey, you're mine," kind of thing. So
Yeah.
the next step for Cora, I guess, is uncovering more about herself and more about her interests. But as you say, you're kind of doing that and having to be a bit selfish because you have to pursue it because it's coming for you. You know, these details are turning up on your doorstep. Um, but in the same time, you've got to be bonding with the group because there's other stuff going on. And yeah, I've given you a myriad of things that you could be focusing on at any one time. Mostly, I've made it so that your personal stories are little side quests that you can do on the route to main storyline items. You saw that with the part of Juradan mini dungeon. And so, yeah, it'll be interesting to see at what point does Cora just go, you know what, fuck it, I'm really going to press for this now.
Yeah, like there was almost a chance to do it at that tavern when we saw Enola and stuff, but it and it might have felt a little bit right there, but I feel like it's one I felt like there was enough had happened, and I wanted to give space, but also I think that's the first real occurrence of something different, and seeing an Olaf is new. So I think it's maybe the next time that happens or something might trigger something, but it all depends. You can't. The thing I like about it is like you can't plan it really. You can have ideas, but it's all based on improv and stuff, and it's like you're trying to live what the characters really do. So you know, like we've had games where I'm like, I think I want to do something, and then it's gone towards that point and something's happened. I'm like, it's okay, that wouldn't happen now because this has happened. So the motivation of the character has changed, like what they're wanting in that moment has changed. So I can't really sort of plan ahead when things will happen. It all depends what might trigger it in the moment. So we'll see, but I'm sure it'll come up at some point. I think she hasn't been interested necessarily, or at least she's not that curious necessarily about who her patron is. She's curious, but only curious, not really wants to find out. It's not been a thing or a reason to
and that's
know.
the thing I've seen very much from the start. I have to
up.
make it a thing, and that's why
Yeah,
you've been poked.
It's
you know.
Yeah, no, exactly, and that's fine because it's very much like she's yeah, that's not her goal at the moment. And I think I sort of spoke to Nick about this off camera when like after I think the last session or something, when we were, or after the tavern, sort of discussing that whole thing. And I think I've realized that actually because Cora plays very like, oh, everything's fine, like happy kind of thing. But she has all this dark stuff in her past that hasn't hugely come up, and in theory has a mission but is not pursuing that mission. And I think it's kind of out of pain and fear, that whenever she sort of starts to delve towards that, it hurts. It's not pleasant. And so it's like it's that kind of when you're not feeling great, you just sort of go, I'm just going to smile and pretend everything's fine, but actually underneath everything is not. And I think that's Cora a little bit, that she's sort of like she's ignoring the real issues because it's painful, and it's much easier to ignore them and just have fun or go and watch a band or go and listen to music or drink until she's stupid or whatever, like, because that's less painful.
Yeah.
Oh God! I just realised that 3 of us are just trash. We are just we've got 3 of us that are just like terrible people. Just like it's terrible people doing even worse things.
Well, you made the point before that real people don't become adventurers. It's always the weird ones.
Yeah.
So let's take a journey out of the 3 people with tragic pasts to the 2 people. Oh God help you! That that are
Do you have a minute to talk about Jonathan?
unfettered.
Oh my god!
No,
Knock on the
no.
door. I have this book.
No.
It's really good.
Would you like to talk about your Lord and Savior Jonathan? We are currently looking for his grave. Have you heard anything about him?
That's too good an impression, dude.
Yeah, that is uncanny.
I've sat there and listened to it for 48 episodes.
So,
Hey, look, Eclipse
Helping.
always gets a bite. She's Farewell's favourite.
yeah.
Aw.
So helping with the
A whole new world. Sorry, I can't get that out of my head.
God.
So helping with these three distraught characters and their dark and painful pasts, we have managed to match them up with people who are unfettered in the world, with only their passions to guide them. And these two well-adjusted... No, I can't do it.
No.
So you have
Who
an
the
obsessed...
fuck are you kidding, Simon?
Someone tried to assassinate her. She's not that well adjusted.
You have an obsessed cat and a hedonistic fiend as the people who are going to help deliver you from your dark and painful pasts. And the first one we'll talk about...
Glory's gonna send us marching straight into our doom. Don't kid yourself.
But you will look fabulous as you do it. So...
Yes. We're gonna all be magical girl outfit.
Oh yeah, fireworks in the background as we go, not turning around to look at them. Just...
So let's talk about one of the two official chaotic neutral cats. The first, of course, being Trouble, who has starred in many episodes. And the second being Eclipse of the Moon. So I was asked a while back in the Tuesday game that I run, which is also in Illyria, it's based in Meridia, what the tabaxi are like. And my answer to that was that most of the tribes are, or clans are small, and they normally like to be away from society. They're hermits or sometimes outright xenophobes. They've seen how terrible the world can be, and so they live their life just hunting, resting, living simple lives. Most of them aren't very driven. But there is an exception, and that is the Tabaxi Naru, of which Eclipse is one of them. They have equal parts wanderlust, and an obsession. They are usually obsessed on something. They will normally be very distracted by that thing if they think they can talk about it, pursue it, or whatever, which made this clan pretty much made for, never mind Eclipse, but Corinne. And there's a point in each Tabaxi Naru's life where they suddenly get this huge surge of wanderlust, and they go on the journey, the travels. And they go out, and it confirms a part of who they are. Eclipse is currently on that journey. She is from Austran, which is a large island nation off the coast of Vardencourt. They have a shared history, largely down to the Genghis Khan or Genghis Kitty of Illyria.
Oh god.
And that is Jordan the Great.
Jordan the Great is Genghis Khan's persona.
Genghis Kitty is amazing.
Oh. So
I broke Simon.
You only have yourself to blame, is all I'm going to say.
Also, I'm so sorry. I'm gonna send something to the Benefactor players channel right now because every time I hear Jordan being compared to the Genghis Khan of Illyria, the only thing I can fucking think of is this. So if you have time, just.
I won't be able to see it right now
Sorry,
because I've
go
got
on.
everything up on the screens. But yeah, so I've differed him to Genghis Khan in some ways and made him exactly like him in other ways. So when he came through the early Vardencourt lands before the time of the Empire, when it was very much a feudal state, small kingdoms. He didn't just conquer places, but he made them better than they were when he first arrived, so that in the end, people just gave up. You know, they didn't even fight him. He marched up, they surrendered, and said, make us part of your empire. This happened with Genghis Khan a lot. And the only things that we've glossed over and not given Jorodan is Genghis Khan's, let's call it proliferation, because I don't want to say the other.
Yeah,
and-
that's fair.
Yeah, and so, Jorodan didn't do that. Up until the point where he had what is now starting to be revealed as a slightly dark end to his reign. Up until then, he was Ajani the Great. He was, he was amazing. He was a very good ruler, and a ruler that was coming from the people because they were fleeing Austran because of a blight and a plague that was there. And so he came to Vardencourt out of necessity, and then realized the only way to set foot here was to conquer it, and so that's what he did. And people rallied behind him because behind them, chasing them, was disease and death. Now, you've heard from one of his generals. There's another. Have a look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 left. That you will hear from.
Oh, you're using my notes. Did massively.
I may have stolen your notes. So
That's next level GMing.
So, no, what I'm laughing about is that I misspelled mausoleum.
oh god, yes.
Oh no.
Here we go. Hang on. Here we go. I'm gonna.
Spelled it.
There we go. There's the shame. So I saw the word mausoleum, and I thought that was brilliant. So all I can think of now is this small, ornate burial place for mice.
You do realise that that's
Choose
where
a cat.
Tuck's going to end up, right?
So yeah, you're going to get a little bit of history because Corinne wanted something for her character to be obsessed about. So I said, sure, go after the heart of Jorodan. She has no idea what it is. It could be a jewel, it could be a weapon, it could be his actual heart.
Or
And
it could be the friends we made along the way.
oh god, the heart of Jorodan was in you all along.
All along, yeah. It's the journey, not the destination. No, that is actually for Tabaxi in general. With their obsession,
Yeah.
it's quite interesting. It's once they've got whatever they looked for, they will not really care about it afterwards. They're like, oh, I got this now. Okay, gotta get rid of it.
I did have this thing in my head where I would make it so that the final thing that you find is the actual heart of Jorodan in a canopic jar, and Eclipse goes up to it and goes, hey, that's the heart of Jorodan, and then because she's a cat just pushes it off the ledge and breaks it.
So, you just have it that there's a door at the end, and then we're waiting outside the door. Finally, the door opens, and she's a cat, so she'll just go and walk off.
No, she won't,
Go
because
through
what
the
will happen
door.
is she'll step about a quarter of the way out and then just stand there.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
just look.
Okay.
And then we'll come back in, and then we'll go a little bit further out, then back in again, and then a little further back out again. And then as you go to close the door, they'll be like, and try and come back in. Or is that just my fucking cat?
This cat has lockpicks.
No.
Yeah. They should get through the door themselves.
You hear her scrabbling at the door, and it's like, oh, is she scratching at it? No, she'll open the lock in a sec. Click.
Just Nat wand it though.
Yeah.
So
Stops meowing.
people might think when they see Corinne playing Eclipse that she is a high energy person. Yes, Corinne is. But you'd think that she plays all of her characters very larger than life and all the rest of it. So her previous characters haven't had accents, so this is the first character that I've seen her play that has a full-on accent. And some of her characters have been really quite sensible and lawful and not boring, but certainly very forceful in another way. And I'm referring to May, who is her grave cleric, human grave cleric, and Sakara, who is her gold dragonborn. I think it is.
Yes.
Yeah, she's gold dragonborn.
Paladin.
I look up there because we have a big wall, a big shrine to Feline Trickster on one wall of the room, and that's mine.
And Felicia.
Actually, yes, there's a Felicia one there. Actually, yeah. So,
There's two
yeah,
Felicia ones.
you've made it onto the Feline Trickster wall. We need a Felicia wall.
There's the two of those pictures are like May and.
Oh yes, May as well. Yeah. See, I love the art so much. It's just I honestly I don't know how much of a compliment this is going to be, but I can't really tell the difference between the Feline Trickster art and the Felicia art in terms of the color and impact and just how they pop. It's just absolutely beautiful. And I have my kit bus wall up there, some of which is signed by the Critical Role cast. So, yeah, we love our art around here. We love our art. So yeah,
Flex on us, why fucking don't you?
So Eclipse
Sorry.
is very much a high energy character, and she can at times be annoying, but again, in the same way that Aiden is he's the straight guy in the comedy. Eclipse is the clown shoes. Let's face it, she's the one who will always go that little bit further, that little bit close to the line, and then she'll push a cup over the line or something. And she is larger than life, and she has got some annoying habits, like telling people what she's doing or what the party are doing when maybe she should withhold some information, or just going straight in and asking people about the Heart of Juradan. Now, considering she's already had one assassin after her regarding the Heart of Juradan, it's not the best tactic to just go up and ask everybody and anybody about it. But so far, so good.
Well, she's gone a lot further now, so she probably won't have to ask as much anymore about it. The graveyard location, so she's gonna hold back on telling too much about it. The reason why she Raoul is because she about quest for her current quest. That's the tabaxi on the journey. It's kind of accustomed to tell people about that. It's not really a secret they tend to keep.
So I wanted to get a bit of more detail about how because Aiden likes Eclipse. He really likes her. But in the way, okay, how do I say this? Eclipse to Aiden is like a very annoying sibling.
Yes.
Right. He sees her that way, and like what he likes the most about Eclipse is the fact that she's really earnest, I want to say, right? She has that that she's really earnest in that way, and that something that really admires is kind of like, how the fuck are you able to be such a bundle of energy and positivity, right, in a world like this? That's kind of what he admires. But but it's not just, but what he does find it like the annoying part is the fact that she keeps saying, like, she keeps putting the fact that like sends Aiden over the fucking edge is not it's not just the fact that Eclipse is going around talking about the Heart of Jordan and getting herself and possibly the party, but mostly herself in danger, right? It's not just that. it's also the fact that when Aiden goes, Eclipse, oh my god, please, for your safety, shut the fuck up about the Heart of Jordan, please. Like, he says that in the nicest way possible. And Eclipse replies with, I don't get it. Why are you so upset? That just fucking sends him over the fucking edge. The fact that she goes, but why though?
But why? My wisdom is 10.
I
don't
love the fact
understand.
that in one explanation, you've in effect friend zoned Eclipse. Like, it's not you. I just see you as a little sister. Like, you've just broken everybody's heart. We keep telling you, dude, this is a ship that is going to sail, and you've just got to
Look,
get on
man.
board.
Look, man. That
Get off your high horse. Get on board. This is a ship that will
Nick,
sail.
Nick, that ship will sink faster than the fucking Titanic.
Eclipse never had any romantic tension.
Right, but yeah, but back on topic is like really the only person that Aiden doesn't really like in the party is Glory. Like, and with Korra, it's more of like he doesn't even know what her fucking deal is. So it's like his answer to anything regarding Korra is right. Um, Eclipse he does like, but he's gonna get a fucking like I don't know, like he's gonna get stress related problems by trying to tell Eclipse, please, I please shut the fuck up about the Heart of Jordan, please.
Well, you gonna because she's not gonna talk as much about as when she's got the location. There's no need to talk about it as much. It's
We just got to go find it. End of
Yeah.
the problem then, surely.
yeah.
Of course, making the assumption that we all survive what we've just walked into.
Oh no, we're not going to survive that. Our next character is going to go find the other thing.
Find home.
And for like Farrell, I think one of the things he does enjoy about Eclipse is at times not only the absolute ruthlessness of her professionalism, because he will never, I think, for the rest of his life, forget the way she served the guy with those papers at the party. That was just absolutely fantastic. One of the best sort of, absolute best setup, brilliant dice rolls, just wonderful, just little bit of sequencing that, but it's the almost joyfulness that everything she does, she has, even if it's a bit seriousness. And like you said, you've got three characters that have a lot of sadness in their lives, and Farewell uses his work to mask that and just to try and carry on, and and the other characters, they've got their own things that they do with it, and they kind of stick together because, especially for Farewell and his relationship with Korra, is that they bring the best out of each other, or at least that's what I like to think. And then someone like Eclipse, who is this energetic golden ball of joy that just keeps bounding through, regardless of asking somebody about like this heart that's obviously upset somebody and that might get me killed, but fuck it, if I die doing what I love, I die doing what I love.
And
she is catting. That's wonderful.
Yeah, she is catting as well. I mean, there's one thing that I
literally.
When I go through previous episodes and I see how she's behaved, it has been that the role playing has said cat all the way through. Just everything she does is cat. And
I really. Sorry, I was just gonna say that I really love the fact that she is this bundle of joy, and yet her background is like bounty hunter / assassin.
Right.
Like she will do the job, and I always can't imagine it. It's like, how did this little bundle of joy just be like, oh, my job is to do this? Okay. Oh, his throat is slit now. What's next? Okay. And it's like, oh my god. It's like,
if television existed in this world, I imagine that Eclipse would be like Dog the Bounty Hunter, like she'd have her own television show, because like she's got that natural charisma in that way that people would want to see her doing it, and she'd be like, okay, now we're going to take him down. It is perfectly fine. And like she could have that whole thing where she's trying to convince them to embrace the word of the gods, brah, and you're gonna get bear maced and all that other sort of stuff, which would just be absolutely fucking hilarious.
Well,
yeah,
I like it.
gonna say,
If you're talking Corinne, you're super
she's
quiet
got a
and I
really
can't
crappy
Yeah,
hear
mic,
you.
so
You
yeah,
are
do whatever you
super
did
quiet.
before. Put the
Lean
mic
in,
in your
lean
mouth
in.
or something.
yeah. No, what I was gonna say is, if it's one thing that Eclipse is not, it's sad. She doesn't. She will get sad if something sad happens, but she won't dwell on it much. She tries to move on, and with her, when she's on a contract and does work, she will get in a much more professional mindset. But at the moment, they haven't been doing bounty hunter contract work much. They've just been kind of, well, she did take the finger off a guy and stuff like.
Yeah.
Apart from collecting fingers.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. We did do a lot to that poor guy.
Yeah, like she does. um. So that's the thing, and yeah. But it's, as I said, as you said, with the party and serving the papers and how she can be very manipulative and getting what she wants in the right circumstances when she wants to get it, kind of thing. As in, when she doesn't really care about it, she doesn't really care about it. Just kind of whatever happens, happens. But if she's doing a job, she tries to do it to the contract that she's gotten. As you said, Nick, that she's quite lawful in whatever things she's been set. So if she's made a promise, she'll keep it. The thing with Merrick, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How.
So the two things there. I mean, first of all, there's a set of scenes that I normally have as a tick box exercise of, oh, I want a scene that outlines this, or I want a scene that outlines that. Serving the papers was the scene that managed to get me to put a big fat tick through, make sure that the viewers see that Eclipse is very good at her job.
Yeah.
And
Something. Sorry.
No, go.
Something I've been thinking about throughout this entire discussion that I'm having a lot of fun thinking about is character establishing moments in the campaign. Not necessarily the first things our character did, but like even things in recent sessions that we did, that our characters did, and we went, and that's like, there we go, character established. That's who they are. That's like their character in a nutshell. I've been thinking about those, and I think Eclipses will be definitely that. The whole the whole thing of the story.
Yeah.
And I'm now trying to think about something similar for the rest of our characters.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly, there has been some really good Cora farewell chats where they get together and they're talking about something that they're collectively worrying about or concerned about, that have definitely been character defining moments of their friendship. For Glory, we're starting to see more of her character defining moments where she's talking about all of the stuff that she does, the hedonistic, decadent, manipulative, power grabbing part of what you see is a duty to her. It's, yes, she's having fun along the way because she could die any second, but it is the duty, it is the game, it is how she was brought up to how the world looks. And then you've got for as I say, you've got the various parts of Core and Farewell that we've already talked about, and then for Aiden, yeah, I'd have to say sitting down with Hector was one. But then I think the way that
Glory as well, the other.
yeah, that recent one, talking to Glory and letting that little bit go was something where I think if I was a viewer rather than a DM, I would pick my ears up at that and go, "Oh, hang on, character exposition." And as a DM, I can't really force those interactions to happen. I can open the doors and open opportunity and give context and say, "Hey, here's some details. What don't you want to talk about them?" But they can only come from you guys.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah. As I said, some other good moments with Eclipse, I think, is when she's been arguing with both Aiden and
Or when she wanted
Farewell.
to put a leash on Farewell.
Yeah. Well, put a leash on Farewell, but as said, arguing with Aiden about Glory, saying how, well, you haven't actually spoken to her about anything. You just decided that you're gonna hate her.
The funny thing about the argument with Eclipse is that up until that point, all that I had planned was up until Aiden saying that he can and will kill Glory if it becomes necessary. And so I was not prepared for Eclipse to come over and go, "Hey, what the fuck?" So that's why if sometimes Aiden's like, if it's sometimes it feels like Aiden is going, "Shut up," though, is because I'm trying to come up with argument points on the fly, and I'm failing at it. So
Yeah, there's
Poor
so
Eclipse
much
trying to keep this crazy party together.
yeah, like that entire argument was me doing mental parkour, trying
I
to
love that
come up with
description.
what. Yeah.
And I think that speaks volumes though about Eclipse as a character, that she very very quickly realised that if this group was ever going to work, that someone needed to be that bridge between all the different parts, and she kind of slotted herself into that role of being able to not only talk to everybody but liaise with them. And it was and I really enjoyed that moment where both Cora and Farewell were like almost spiraling off each other in being distrustful and like wanted to just tell everybody and run away. And then Eclipse was like, "No, we gave our word. That should mean something."
Yeah.
And there was that real moment and it made them both, Cora and Farewell, stop and just look at each other and go, "Do we listen to all the negative in that, or do we compromise?" And that was a brilliant moment. I really enjoyed that moment.
And it's great when the
Yeah.
party dad gets lectured in responsibility by the cat. And the whole turnaround of events. And we were saying before about how Kate made the point that she does all this this dark stuff, but then she seems to be having so much fun. And once again, that's being a cat. We're like, "Oh, look at the cat playing. Aren't they so cute? They're enjoying
With
themselves
the
so
mouse,
much.
yeah.
They're murdering a small
Like to point out, they
creature."
are nature's perfect killers. The only problem is that they just weigh 8 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
nobody
correct.
told them.
Well, you don't want them to be the size of a tiger because they'd murder us all, apparently.
Yeah, no, as I said, she's the embodiment of cat, being very happy, very cuddly, very cute, except when she's asked to go for either on the hunt for whatever her target in Corey is. She'll be again as a cat and be very effective at it. And then have fun around the way and then murder for
Again, a
Yeah,
brilliant
cool.
balance. Now,
and then murder the bird very 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 cruelly. No, as I said, she can be quite loose about certain laws and stuff, as she's
a bounty
the,
hunter. Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah. I mean, she stole that random um uh the random army dudes like,
Yeah, remember.
money and gave it
Oh,
to
yeah.
the farmer because they didn't give enough money to the farmer to cover. Like, oh, this lots of money here. I'm just gonna give it to the farmer and be fine.
Little Robin Hood moment.
We
Yes.
have like 13 minutes left. Is there anything else we would like to talk about?
Well, I would like to throw it open to both yourselves and the guys in chat of, is there anything that you would like clarified about the campaign so
Oh
far?
yeah. Oh yeah. I have one very good question, Simon.
Okay.
What the fuck?
And the question is, how do we win?
Yeah, how do we win?
How do you
No,
win?
the question was that.
How do you win D&D?
How
Can you
Yeah.
ever win at Dungeons and Dragons? I thought that you just do a little bit better every single time.
No, the
Um,
question,
Win and
Simon.
lose a little bit every session. Different.
Simon, the question was, what the fuck?
That's for you guys to find out. That is D&D. If you ever find out what the fuck actually is, you have won D&D. Congratulations.
Yay.
Awesome.
I think the trouble with those sorts of questions is that your mind naturally goes towards the meta. And for me, the joy is not knowing everything and letting myself make the decisions in the situation. So that willingness to push on into, say, the facility, which is what we're currently doing, which I will add, by the way, how good at we at stopping the game at the right fucking cliffhangers. I think we've done that every single week.
Yeah.
We've just
Check.
managed to stop ourselves at just the right fucking moments.
Question
Yeah.
in chat. There's a question in chat.
Yep. So Rattles has asked, under what circumstances did you decide that pushing them 3 weeks in the future was a good idea? So first of all, there's a trope with amnesia storylines. You start a session, or you start a one shot or a campaign with the characters having no backstory or no memory of their backstory. Therefore, you don't have to deal with anything. It's a quick and dirty way of starting a campaign. You guys don't know anything about your previous lives. You don't care about your previous lives. Lots of shit is happening, and you concentrate on that more than not knowing what happened before. Now, first of all, it's that's a trope. It's very convenient. A lot of new DMs use it. I've used it in the past. Certainly haven't got a problem with that. There's actually a one-shot type that I use called the Infiltrators, where they deliberately give themselves amnesia to be able to be sleeper agents. And
Damn.
yeah, it's a really good one-shot. It worked really well. But with this, the circumstances, in this case Rattles, was that I love putting mysteries together. And for me, the combat and all the rest of it is all of the sprinkles on top of the cupcake. The center of the cupcake is the mystery. Yeah. And
Yeah.
in this particular case, in the Tuesday game, they were pursuing this guy called Cortez, and they were like, Cortez is a dick, Cortez is a dick, Cortez is a dick. For nearly 2 years, they've been waiting to be able to go back and unseat this guy, only to find out that he did what he did. Okay, he was an idiot, but he wasn't being a dick. He actually sent the character that he usurped away so she wouldn't get hurt, whereas she saw it as him.
He's just terrible at being a lawyer.
Yeah. This guy.
Oh my god.
This guy fucked up on an infernal deal, and he sent the player character away, declaring her a bastard, so that she wasn't under the negative influence of that contract. So he kind of it's the whole kind of Arya throwing stones at Nymeria, which, believe me, I don't want to think about that because I'll start crying again. Where she has to convince Nymeria that she doesn't like her anymore and wants her to go away, and that's what he did. So it's mysteries. Mysteries is always a big thing. There's got to be threads that you can pull on and pull together. I have run campaigns where there's no real mystery, there's just overwhelming odds and things like that. But for something, especially something that I'm streaming, I want there to be some sort of conspiracy. And
Yeah.
there's got to be those high points of throwing people together in adversity. So when I started writing the Benefactor, and I've written it all the way, so I know what
Wow.
I know what all the potential endings are. I know what all the reveals are. And at some point, I need to do a video about what I call writing wide and writing long, which is how I write all of my campaigns, whether I'm doing a 1 to 20 or if I'm doing a short shot. I always do the writing wide and writing long. And that's a useful writing technique for episodic writing. And it also partially answers the question about the cliffhangers. So the 3 weeks of Amnesia was twofold. First of all, I've done a lot of campaigns that have ground from level 1 up to level X. Every level, upon level, upon level, upon level. And I didn't want that for this game. I wanted us to have the origin story, but there were a certain section of levels where I just didn't give a shit. There was, to be honest, there was nothing in those levels that I hadn't done a billion times before. And I thought, you know what? You should use every drive, every emotion when you're writing as an asset, and that negative asset can be turned into a positive. And I was sat down and I had that feeling, and I was like, you know what if we cut it out? What if we just ripped that one thing out and made it something that is awesome, that has drama, that has that whole kind of, oh shit, what, really? And this was planned right from the start. There was never going to be, you were never going to see those levels. But I didn't tell anyone. Even Corinne, I lived with Corinne, and she had no idea. And the moment where I turned around and told you guys that you were now that level and you have no idea how you got there, had the desired effect. You guys immediately had that surge of drama and emotion and all the rest of it. And that was part of the story. That was part of the written part of the story right from the start. When I was doing the writing long part, that was part of it. One of the bullet points were, there is nothing here. This gets explained in the next 2 levels.
Right. Yeah, I think the story is far better thanks to that time skip in a way.
Yeah.
Not in a way.
It is the story.
It's definitely like better. Yeah.
Because, and especially considering, I know that you guys have got varying experience of D&D, but one of the players, Corinne, has pretty much eaten every book and can regurgitate it at will. And a lot of the people who are watching know about the spells and things as well. So spells like Modify Memory, which can only take away, I think it's a scene, or up to 24 hours.
10 minutes.
There we go. See, I told you. She can regurgitate at will. Meant that the second that I said, yeah, you've lost 3 weeks, one of the things that she said when we came off air, she was like, that's not Modify Memory. You can't do that with Modify Memory. And I said, well, you could make an enhanced version of the spell. That's one of many things that could go about it. So even an experienced D&D player, sometimes I can tease them using their knowledge of D&D. Because I can design whatever spells I want, whatever magical items I want, whatever creatures I want. But by kind of giving an effect like that where there's a known spell that does it, and for them to go there in their head and go, nope, not that, is part of the process that feeds their love of the game. And so there'll be times when I will tease people by giving them red herrings where they quickly pull out the spell list and they go, I think it's this spell. And they look at the spell, or they remember it. Oh yeah, it's that spell. I would certainly use that spell. And actually I'll make it look like that spell, but it'll be something completely different. And again, that's, I'm metagaming. I'm using the metagame, which isn't a dirty word as long as you use it correctly, to play with the minds of the players and give them that level of fun and things to chew on. You know, I'm giving you factual chew toys to get your teeth into.
Nice. Yeah.
So I hope that answers your question, Rattles.
This is not a question or anything, but like everything you've talked about and everything you say about DMing, it makes me. This is legitimately not just. This is legitimately my favorite campaign that I've ever played, as well as my
Thank you.
favorite group and my favorite DM.
Thank you.
We
Like I'm
love
being
you.
honest here.
You're Aw. Come on, give me a big hug.
He's just trying to get Simon not to kill him next session.
Yes.
No guarantees.
No, I genuinely mean it, and also Nick, I will hug you, but you live on the other side of a fucking continent. So.
Virtual hug.
Fundraiser to get Rodrigo over here.
Yeah, well,
for a
yeah,
holiday.
it pays for itself because we do a Kickstarter to get Rodrigo over here for the live show, which is the reward for getting him over here. See, so it all works. It works together.
Yeah, absolutely. Hell yeah.
So
And
one
then
of the
we gotta
things you
get
touched
PC
on
over as
there,
well, but it's like 100 quid.
one of the things you touched on there actually,
finance.
in terms of killing the characters, I think this is probably a good session to talk about my policy on killing characters. I've played a lot of D&D and other games, other role-playing games, and my theory is that I will not give pointless deaths. So if you fudge a roll on a knowledge check or something like that and you die by tripping up on the street, I won't let that happen. But then if everything was fair, all the information was given, and you either ignored it or misinterpreted it or whatever, and it led to a situation where you went, for example, into a large institute half-cocked, having used most of your spell slots and
Shut up! Shut! La 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 la.
and have no way to recover
You
them.
made us do it.
Then those character decisions, and it's normally a long set of character decisions that puts you into an untenable position.
Yeah.
That's where if the
again.
dice go that way, then character death will happen. And the reason for that is that I've been in groups before where the DM refuses to kill off any characters, even when the dice have said no, they died hard. And he's kind of fudged something in to make it happen. Okay, if it's kids, sure. But if it's fully grown adults, the only way that these things become precious is if they're fragile. And that is that, if your character dies, you can play that character again in any following campaign. I've said that the same, that, if you want to come back and play this character in the next campaign, great. But in this campaign, they're dead. Something gets given value.
My only problem with that is that, for example, for me, my characters mean a lot. Literally every single one of them. And for me, if their death is a natural conclusion to their story, then I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. However, if they end up, for example, with Aiden, there's still a lot I want to do with him. There's still a lot of, there's still a story that I want to tell with him. And so if he ends up dying due to the roll of a dice, like a shitty roll, I'm gonna feel terrible. And
Isn't
if
that
the
the
answer,
point, though? Isn't
Dude,
that the whole point?
you always feel terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
I
can't
love-
predict death. Death is
Yeah.
something that none of us can predict, and that makes it
Right.
why it's devastating. If it's not, if you can
Listen,
predict it, all rounds off nicely. Yeah,
can
carry
I
on.
please finish?
Yeah, go on.
Thank you. Okay, but yes, yes, I understand that's kind of the point, but I still will personally feel devastated,
Oh,
and
of course.
nothing will make it worse than, I don't know, them's the breaks.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well,
Yeah, but you can do all
And-
sorts of fun things off the back of that. I mean, you could have the party, if they all wanted to carry on playing the same characters. Well, you can do a story about them trying to get back to the land of the living. That's an option.
Absolutely.
Equally, you can even just have them be a group whose job is to go and collect the bodies to bring them back to be resurrected, and then you can have the group having a huge debt because say 5 people being resurrected isn't cheap, and you can do all sorts of fun and dynamic things about that. And one of the most devastating deaths I ever had as a player wasn't even because of a crap roll that I did. it was a crap roll that 2 other people did,
Yeah.
and it resulted in not only did they nuke themselves, but they nuked the entire party. And we were stood there, and and these are characters that we had played for 3 years solid.
Yeah.
That I
3 long years, and then suddenly gone.
That's fair, but I still think that in the end, what matters the most is whether, like if I was a DM, what will matter the most to me was if my players are having fun,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
if
of course.
someone is gonna have literally negative fun if their character dies, and the only response to that is, I mean, you have to roll a new character, sorry, but there's nothing else you can do. That I feel is like, I don't know how to say it without sounding over dramatic, but I'm just gonna say
No,
it's pretty
that's
bad.
this is a comment that I've heard a lot before, and to the point where I'm going to try not to make my response too well practiced because I've answered it quite a lot before. So yes, absolutely, that is a completely a valid point. The aim here is to have fun. The good news is that the value of a character is not whether or not you roll a 1 and lose the character straight away. As I said before, I won't just let a character die off a stupid arbitrary roll. Normally, if a group fail in the campaign, it's down to a lot of character choices, and it ended up going so it's like, yeah, sorry, so many things just built up, and yes, there is that moment of drama, and you've got to remember that the character dying is not really the game. The game is telling the story, and it's how I've had quite a few of my characters die now, largely because of, well, I make poor choices, and it's telling that story that's
Oh
been
boy,
more
do I
interesting
feel
for
that
us.
one.
And so, in some cases, my next character has been the character that came in because that previous character died. I've been my own brother. I've been my own father before, turning up to find out where his stupid, reckless son, how his stupid, reckless son died, and then realized that his stupid, reckless son actually was on a world-changing quest to save everybody, including his own family, and he ended up picking up the baton from his dead son. And that story was just like, fuck, I've got this like major opus going on here. Now, if your character's
To be fair, I just want to say that we're getting to those levels now where character death is gonna be less of a problem. It's more like
it's really not a problem anymore, yeah. But talking about the narrative part of it all, if you were to turn around to me and say, right, okay, he's dead, his story isn't finished. Nick actually took some of the lines, which is good that this kind of thing is going on. If you tell us as a group that the story isn't finished, that the Aiden story isn't finished, then that's the story we tell together. Yeah? So the thing where Nick said that either the current characters or a couple of meta characters get together, and it turns out that you're in the Shadowfell, you're a ghost, and you're running away from these Reavers who are trying to, these kind of Reaver creatures that are trying to pull you through the mortal gate, and you're trying to find any fucking way back you can so that you can somehow get a reconstituted body. Oh my god, that's a story. Yeah? And that could be a 3, 4, 5 session arc where you bring it back. Now, if you turn around and say, okay, yeah, I was bummed out. Character died, had a moment of high drama, which, okay, was sad, but also fucking awesome. It was epic. I had adrenaline going through my veins. I felt a ton of stuff. But now, the next morning, after I've woken up, yeah, I know I can go to Simon and say, can we get him back? By some means. Yeah. Okay. Play a temporary character for a short period of time. Aiden's body will be going back to the Raven Queen's temple. He'll catch up in like sessions. Yeah, that's definitely a story we can tell. It should always be a constant conversation. The conversation doesn't end with the natural one or with the critical that the pit fiend just used to rip your head off. The conversation always goes on because the story always goes on. And if you, in the cold light of day, the next morning, go, you know what? Last night I was like getting back at all costs, but I've actually got this really cool idea for this character where it continues Aiden's story but through another character. Great. You know, there's the reason why we said that there's an indeterminate number of surviving Canelms is that I do want either yourself or other players in future to be able to play Canelms because they're fucking cool. And that legacy, that legacy that started with Rodrigo to go on through other players. Yeah. There are characters you've met that are actually inspired by other players. Credar Montissier is actually from my friend Joe, who has played this ratbag Credar for the best part of a decade, on and off, including in Shadowrun. He was the biggest dick there. So yeah, there's an amazing dick, by the way, but yeah, not somebody who you would approve
Simon.
of.
Phrasing.
Yeah, phrases. Anyway, but anyway, when it comes to things like that, always keep the conversation going because that's how to keep the story going. And if genuinely you're there saying, "I want to tell the rest of the story," have that conversation because it's a game. It's a game where technically you can lose. Although I won't go into my win-lose rant at the moment because D&D is
no.
D&D
I've
is
always worked on the
esports.
basis that
Bunch of fucking gurus
ATP
online saying how to win D&D, and I'm like, the only way you can win D&D is to have fucking fun.
Yeah, for me, TVK has never, ever, in all the years that I've played all these different kinds of role-playing games and tabletop stuff, ever been losing. In fact, if I'm completely brutally honest with myself, some of the most fun we've ever had is when it's gone so completely wrong.
Oh, yeah.
And we have dead everywhere. We've lost all of these people. And then the DM has sat back and just gone, what do you want to do?
Yeah. How are we going to do this?
And for me, there's nothing more powerful than that question because he's gone, look, I can weave the fate because I am the universe, but it's got to be your will. And very quickly, an anecdote, I remember on another campaign that we had, we all died, and one of the players in their dying wish did this amazing role-playing moment where she compelled the gods to save her friends, not to save her, just to save her friends. And the DM was so moved by it, he said, roll. And she nat 20, and he was like, okay, I've got to make you do it again, just to confirm that it's a genuine crit, because she was asking quite a huge monumental thing. She back-to-back natural 20'd. And he went, all right. And he went, the dice gods have spoken. And then there was that moment where suddenly we all found ourselves back alive minus her.
Yeah.
And then it was like, and we had this whole campaign about trying to figure out, and the sad thing about that campaign, if there is anything sad about that one, was we never got her character back because she found somebody else she wanted to play.
Yeah.
And could continue the story. But we continued
she concluded her story as well. I mean, what a way to go. To have such a profound effect on fate. You're not going to top that. You bring that character back. Anything she does beyond that point is not going to top that. I would be happy to retire that character.
We had a beatified, and she became an actual saint. Because it was a natural cry for justice.
Yeah.
Because of the cruelty of the situation. I can't remember if it was one of Tyr's angels or one of Sam Ray's, but yeah, she basically became a saint in the celestial realm, where in effect her character now lives forever.
Yeah,
and I'll always remember that. And it was a really cool moment that happened quite organically, but we were all dead, like super dead.
Yeah.
Like And that was a combination of shitty decisions and terrible dice rolls.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I use character death because it is part of the game, but it's never the end of the game. Okay.
Right.
As one of the anecdotes, because I know that we've gone a little over 11, but it's not a school night, and the monsters kicked in anyway. We played a game, and I think within the third or fourth session of that campaign, we went in because we were seasoned D&D players, man. This is D&D 4 now we're talking about. We got this thing sussed, and I was playing Samael, a half orc paladin who had these things where I could do 4 times my weapon damage if I took 5 hit points of damage once per day, because it was D&D 4. And basically I hit so hard I ripped my own muscles doing so, and I was like, I can take anything down. So we went up against kobolds and a bunch of bugbears, and there was a bugbear chief. So we were like, kobolds, we've killed kobolds before, no problem at all. We charged in, not doing the formation type stuff that you would normally do, because we're like, come on, let's get ourselves to level 5. And we TPK'd. I ran up to the bugbear chief. Yes, I hit him so hard his children will feel it. But after that, he flanked me several times over with bugbears, and my character died. We had a Tauren who could do all sorts of stuff. He died too, and we TPK'd. So we were playing like super good characters there. I was a paladin of Pelor. We had a priest of one of the other really good gods.
Was that Aboleth, or was that the different time
That's
you
different
told me about with the
different
Aboleth?
Yeah, Aboleth is a different one. And so we come back with new characters because we tell the DM, no, we're doing this again, man. We're rolling up now. And so we had a huge commiseration party where we're sat there, drawing out our new characters. And this time we're talking to each other as well and saying, if you take this, that combos well with this. We're going to show these fuckers. We're going to go to this cave and figure it out. So we all created, just to stick it to the DM. Hey, Mike, we love you. We all made evil characters. Where the previous guys were super, super good, we were the biggest dicks in existence. We stole, we assassinated, we were all the spectrum of evil. So we went in there, and I was playing a shadow assassin at that point. So it's got a bunch of things. So it's like effectively a rogue, but it has the shadow step of a shadow monk in 5th edition. And I was disgusting. It was the stuff I could do was just ridiculous. And this time we paid attention. We did everything in formation. Good character choices. The rolls were average, but we didn't have poor character choices, making them worse. And we took them all out. Now the DM, bless him, kept the bodies of our old characters there. And the guy who played the Tauren previously, who was funnily enough Joe, who plays Krader, he turned around and said, hey, look, lunchtime. And he ate his previous character. He put together a bonfire, and he put a spit through the Tauren, and he ate his previous player character. And that will stay with me for the rest of my life. Just suddenly going, I know we were evil, but this is insane. The DM's having a nervous breakdown. Sorry, Mike, we love you. But yeah, he's having a nervous breakdown going, you're going to eat your previous character. So sometimes, we weren't particularly invested in those characters, I will say. But sometimes you can just get these moments that you will remember for the rest of your life through either a character death or a TPK. Everyone will remember. I think it's no longer a spoiler, and if it is, you should have been catching up already. But when Molly Mook died, it became a thing that everybody united around. I mean, the art that came out of it.
And I think the interesting thing about Molly's death was that they had just come off the back of this campaign where, like, as Corinne rightly pointed out, they'd hit a point in Dungeons and Dragons where death became less of a hindrance to people because they could resurrect, and they were also quite cavalier about the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then his death came at a time where it just reminded them, and it reminded the community as a whole that everyone is mortal, deaths can happen, and not everybody gets a second chance like Vax does if you can't resurrect. And and the fact that they made and kept that death permanent, I think, was one of the best things they could ever do for a campaign. And equally, it's something that if death ever happens, it happens. But don't think you would ever, especially with Farewell around, would ever go quietly into that silent night. He would find it very hard to let that one go.
Yeah, and you do get a lot of value out of it. I mean, for me, what I consider to be one of the biggest parts of Critical Role Gold is Sam turning around to Liam and apologizing that he had to use the wish spell on Vecna because he wanted to use the level 9 wish spell to wish that Vax wouldn't go.
Oh, he didn't use wish. He just used a 9th level spell.
He used the spell that he would use for wish.
It was counter spell at 9th level.
Yeah, that's right, to stop him from going. And I will put my hand up to it. I was bawling my friggin' eyes out when that happened. But I felt that's something that will stay with me for the rest of my life. That storytelling is just super amazing. And this is me just gushing about D&D at this point, but I think we've kind of been doing that for the whole session. And that is
that was the entire stream.
Yeah, there was the entire stream. Yeah, it's where else do you get that? Dara O'Brien, in one of his comedy sketches, he's a comedian over here, said that he loves computer games. And the reason why he loves computer games is that, and I would say the same is true of RPGs, is that you do not get this thing in any other form of entertainment media. You don't read a book to a certain point and there's a test halfway through the book, and if you can't pass the test, you can't read the rest of the book. But that's true of a computer game. You can't get past that point. You don't get to see the rest of the content that you paid for. Now, okay, you could go back and turn it to like stupidly easy level, but then you're kind of cheating yourself of some of the experience. The same is true of an RPG, is that if you go left instead of right, there's content that you will never see. If you go up to a guy and go, "Hey, you're a dick, I'm not even going to talk to you," and I say, "But that would have led to a particular point," that is also true. I realise somebody's just...
Felicia went to sleep.
Felicia.
Felicia.
Good night, Felicia. So yeah, it's one of the reasons why I will always love this this form of entertainment, and try to always bring that to this particular stage. So unless anybody's got any other questions, I'm happy to wrap it up there. What I will do, talking about Felicia, is I will at some point sit down with her and talk about Glory, because oh my god,
yes,
if there's one person
Glory
who has put a ton of effort into her backcanon, it is Glory. She has drawn maps of her home district, she's drawn her family, she's drawn her dragon patron, she's drawn other obscure members of her family that I'm now having to find excuses to put into the game because the art is so good. So much effort. And this frame around me at the moment, this is all her. And sourcing that lovely script that's down here, which is now becoming very much a feature of Chaotic Neutral. She has put so much into it. So this was a general get together, a bit of a chill out with the guys on the chat as well. But I think it would be nice at some point to do one-to-ones in the same way I did with Love D&D, which, by the way, I'll be starting back up now that I've figured out how to sort out the sound. And yeah, so we can go into a little bit more detail, I guess, regarding the backstory, and maybe get you guys to record your bios a little bit like the first ever Critical Role, where there was just a paragraph that each of you guys read out that someone can go to on YouTube or on our Twitch channel as a highlight, and just catch up on who you are. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yep, that sounds
good.
good.
Yeah, sounds great.
Stuff. So, unless anybody's got anything else they'd like to talk about,
Nah.
we can end the stream there.
Awesome.
Okay.
God,
So
see everyone in like 2 weeks.
yeah,
3
so
weeks?
yeah,
3 weeks.
announcements is being kept at the end today. So first announcement is we're not going to be here for the next 2 weeks, largely because I'm in Sweden for the first week and Wales for the second. So I will be away. And so there'll be nothing on this channel because at the moment I haven't got other people who put stuff on it. And so we will see you in 3 weeks' time. But in 3 weeks' time, you will be joining the group in a cellar, kind of like a plant room or a basement for the Institute, in the dark amongst hissing pipes and strange machinery, with a person who's running for their life and the reason why he's running. So a nice start to what will be effectively a new season, I guess, because this is the only real pause we've had. I'd like to say thank you to a few people. So first of all, I've already said thank you to Felicia, but thanks again. My God, this has been fantastic. Thanks to all the artists who's provided art that you are now seeing as part of the graphics. And I managed to remember at last minute Blue Kev, who did that wonderful picture of Aiden, which you will now find in the credits. I'd like to give a shout out rather than a thanks because they're a business. It seems strange to thank them, but a shout out to Storyblocks and specifically Storyblocks Audio, which you can find at audioblocks.com. I'm now signed up membership of their royalty-free music, which you heard in our credits, in our opening sequence. And there's a bunch of downloads you can get, but also you can play them just straight off the bat from the website. And I'll be using that for some of the ambience of sessions in future. There's lots of little bits and pieces that I can throw in there, and we've started using sound a lot more now, so that'll be great too. Just a quick acknowledgement of the company below us, Geeky Clean. They've given us this lovely discount code to use code Chaotic. I've mentioned it many times before, but their stuff is lovely. I'm actually getting some of the Geeky Clean stuff for my 40th birthday from my daughter, so I'm going to be enjoying some of that decadence in my second week. And please visit the website. They've got some fantastic stuff, and don't forget to use that code because every time you use it, James knows that we're still sending the love his way. Finally, an obscure shout out to a composer called Ivan Torrent. I didn't manage to put his the text of his name up on here, but it's as you would expect it to be spelled. I've been in discussion with him recently regarding a piece of music that I use quite a lot when I'm writing, and it's a piece of music called Human Legacy, and he's agreed that I can use it on the show, but as long as I don't use it for I can't make it our theme tune or anything like that. We aren't a business. We accept donations, which we will use to make this better so we can give more, but we give all this for free, and any donations that are given to us are gratefully received, and they will be used to feed back into this process. We are here to play D&D and have fun and promote people and promote positivity. So he is very happy for us to use that as a soundtrack that we'll be using in the breaks or maybe in the starting soon screen. I haven't decided where I'm going to use it yet, but it's great to be able to share that with you. And any DMs who are out there, please go on to iTunes, Google Play Music, Spotify, or wherever else you get your music streaming service, and type in Ivan Torrent. And if necessary, look for Human Legacy. That particular piece will be on all three of the platforms. And listen to the other ambient music that he does. He specializes in ambient music and film tracks, and any DM who is wanting to put some background music in your home games, please share that with your friends. The guy's an absolute legend. And I did mention as well before, Two Steps to Hell. They're another recommendation for fantastic film track style music that you can use to enhance your combats and your background. And I've been speaking with both of those recently. Two Steps to Hell, it's a little more complex because they're actually a company and there's a bunch of investors with that. But thankfully, Ivan's just one guy that I to, and he's given permission. So thank you again for that. I think that's it for us for 2 weeks. We've delved into a little bit about how the guys feel about their characters, their current challenges, and things going forward. There's one project that I'm going to see if I can do it over the next few weeks, and that is do my best Danny Bear impression and do a catch-up. I was going to do this as a way of me talking the catch-up, but at the moment, the most brief version I can do of all the events that's happened in the last 41 episodes is around about 3 pages long, so I might not read it out because it might just end up turning into a radio play. I'll find some way of doing it and putting a concise thing out there so that anybody who's new to the stream, and especially if you want to fast forward through some of the sessions where we had sound difficulties and it's a little harder to follow, they'll be able to read those items and get up to speed and just join us in the current episode. So we'll be bringing that in the next few weeks as well. I've already got most of it written. I've got it written up to May of this year, so I'm nearly there. Until then, thank you very much, everyone. Great to be hanging out with you again, and we will see you in 3 weeks' time.
Bye.
Bye.